Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across the planet, around the world. I'm Greg from In5D, and I want to thank you for joining me for this spirit chat that we're having tonight. It's totally impromptu, so just bear with me while I get everything set up. I'm copying the Zoom link so I can paste that into the chat room. Because the world wants to know what you have to say, not just me, us, okay? There. Okay. So a quick shout out to everyone that's joined in. I'm surprised we have this many with absolutely zero notice. And thanks to, I recognize a few faces in here tonight in the chat room that were joining me about an hour ago or so for the In5D Patreon mid-month energy report. That was pretty interesting. So a quick shout out to T Light, Imelda, Elizabeth Reese, Quantum Spirit, Justine, Dean, John, Nicole, Sean, IGH Consulting, Up 3, everyone that's joined us here tonight, Tara, Susan. So I hope you guys had the chance to see that mid-month energy report. There was something that I especially got out of it, and that was, well, if you had seen the New Year's Eve predictions that I made, one prediction that I made was that the planet, our planet, will, the world that we know will be unrecognizable by the end of the year. I did that on New Year's Eve. On January 4th, Allison Coe did an interview with James Gilliland. And one of the first things James asked is, what do you see for 2020 and beyond? And Allison said that, well, I just had my first session of 2020. And what she got was that by the end of the year, it won't be recognizable here. So that was confirmation of what I was shown, what I was given, and what I shared with you guys on the 2020 New Year's Eve extravaganza on the predictions that I made there. So got Doug here joining me. You with us, Doug?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
That's weird. This computer's new to me and I didn't realize I could even talk.
How cool is that? Yeah.
That is awesome. Cool. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Been keeping busy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been doing a lot of these chats, and I think it's great to get more and more people involved because everyone's got great stories to tell. And tomorrow night, we're going to be doing a chat on Zoom called What Led to Your Awakening. So
I saw that. That's what got me. That's the first thing I saw that got me on here. And then I saw this one and I thought, well, heck, I'll try this one too. So
yeah. Good. Get your feet wet tonight and then you can come out and rock it tomorrow as well.
Yeah, giddy up, man. It sounds good. My daughter just left behind me. Sorry about that.
Awesome. How long ago did you awaken?
I would say in the 90s, 1990s. So 1997 and 98 were probably the most interesting years of my life, and I went through a lot, and I think those years are the ones where I really grew.
Let me ask you this: how many dark nights of the soul have you been through since you awakened?
Well, I still had quite a few. You know, my dark nights of the soul don't seem to dissipate. You know, that the thing that's different, now is, I guess it's part of who I am and the way I think of things. So they don't bring me down like it used to. I let it wash through me now, and I see it for the unreality. Even though I let myself feel the feelings, I don't let them dictate how my life unfolds from that point on. If that makes sense.
Once
Give
you
me
awaken,
1 second. I'm
look
sorry.
at things differently, don't you?
I'm talking. I'm having a video chat. See, honey, my daughter just came in. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right.
But once you awaken, you see things differently. You think, at least for myself, I'll say to myself, why did this happen? What is it that I need to see out of this situation, or what can I learn, or how did I bring this situation to me? Stuff along that line.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. And excuse me. And it's kind of weird too. I feel like I see things the same way, only now I let myself think about them the way I never let myself think about them before. In other words, I used to scoff and push down my thoughts about things, and until I allowed myself to be and open my mind to myself more than anything. And then now I allow myself to see the things I always saw, only now I can keep them in a perspective that makes sense. Whereas before they confused me because I thought I was wrong. I let this guilt override me, I thought I was the one that was weird,
No.
If that makes sense,
Do you find that, with friends and family, things have changed a little?
I'm not sure in what way. It's hard to say. I've been with my wife for 19 years now, but it's been rather interesting. It's definitely changed. It took a while for my in-laws, for example, to have faith in me and trust me. I had a reputation that preceded me, and they. But I think that has definitely changed. Now I think they look at me as just as solid as can be. One of the solid people in their daughters' lives, in their families' lives. Whereas I think that would have surprised them if someone would have told them that back then. So things have changed. It's been a lot of work, but things have changed for the better, because there's times when you talk about things and people resist, so you have to be patient to let the work, if you will, unfold until they come to realizations on their own. So what about you? How old are you?
Gosh, well, I turned 60 this year, and pretty much came in awoken with a predisposition against religion. There's something about organized religion that's always rubbed me wrong. And I learned what it was through a past life regression as a old Mayan man, nobody popular. I wasn't Kukulkan or Lord Pekal. I was just an old man that was forced into Christianity, and they threatened to kill me if I didn't conform to Christianity. And I agreed, but I lied to them so I could pass on my knowledge to my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. So kind of came in awakened. I'll go further into it tomorrow, and I've explained it a few times live, but you end up, I had a friend that I've known since we were in first grade. He was the best man in my marriage to my daughter's mother. And once I awakened, things became different. He would come onto my Facebook page and ridicule my awakened friends.
Really?
And that wasn't cool. So in private, I would tell him, please don't do that. That's not cool. But he kept doing it. So I had to unfriend him, which led me to writing an article on In5D called "So Your Spiritual Awakening Cost You Some Friends." And so it's been a really popular article throughout the years because many of us have lost friends. And when I wrote that article, it was almost like I was doing automatic writing where you're not even cognizant of what you're doing. It's just flowing. It came out, and it's a long article, and it felt like it only it took a couple minutes to write, but it just came out so easy and fluidly that you know, I barely remember writing it, but there it is, and I just poured my heart out into that article.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I too love hearing the stories of other people's awakenings, if you will. And I worked at a magazine here, and I live in the Minneapolis area, and I worked at a magazine called The Edge, and it's kind of a new age or new thought magazine. And I've been fortunate enough to have gotten to interview quite a few of Marianne Williamson, for example, current presidential. I interviewed her years ago. Neil Donald Walsh and all kinds of other folks in the new age world. But the feel, the thought, it's always inspired me ever since I've awakened, if you will. And hearing others and being around others of like mind is always, it gives you an energy, a charge.
That's cool that you interviewed those people, but as you found out that, some of the best interviews aren't the big names. They're people
yeah,
like you and me that we're nobodies. We're not, we're just, I'm not saying nobodies. We are definitely, everyone's definitely somebody and something very important, but in the grand scope of life, people like to have these big names like, Marianne Williamson, David Icke, and I've done my share of interviews on In5D radio with all these people, but I want to bring everybody else out. That's why I'm doing this on Zoom and bringing all the rest of us out.
I'm a stay-at-home dad, and my kids have gotten older now, so I got to try to join the workforce with something again. But what do you want? What can 57-year-old guy do in this world that I'm not going to go sell widgets again? I've done that, and I just have no interest, But I guess I lost my train of thought. I don't remember where I was going with this.
There's things that you can do, as an awakened person. It'll come to you though. It has to resonate with you, but there are ways of making money, I'm sure, that don't involve kissing corporate ass.
Yeah, and my wife works in that world, and she travels a lot. She's out of town now, and it's killing her, man. Just the stress, the pressure, and there's so much to do, and she's so good at her job. But yeah, man, I couldn't do it. I never could do it.
That would be a good topic. And that's one of the things I want to put out there for people listening, and feel free to jump in at any time or make a comment on YouTube. And this would be a great topic. What kind of job would you recommend for an awakened person? Also, while you're out there, I'd like people to tell me what topics you want to hear. What topics would you like us to start talking about?
I could give you a freaking list of shit that, excuse my language, stuff to talk about.
That's okay. Just be real. I don't care if you swear.
I can say shit, right?
Yeah. Okay. So for example, give me some topics.
Well, the Urantia book. Have you read the Urantia book?
What's that?
Heard of it? Urantia book.
Yeah, I did. Didn't really resonate with it, but it'd still be a great show.
It sat on my bookshelf for 10 years. And I read parts of it, like the parts about Jesus it had. So I had it underlined, but I didn't remember much. But then a couple of years ago, for some reason, it tweaked my interest. And I read the entire thing in a freaking month, man. I really consumed it. And it hit me in a way I never did before. I think it's an absolutely fascinating, scientific, spiritual exercise. And I'm quite surprised that some of the concepts introduced in there haven't been explored by scientists and physicists, and to explore the possibilities that they talk about. And their Adam and Eve story is much more palatable than the one in the Bible. Much more believable. It makes more sense than anything the Bible has to say, or actually what religions say the Bible says.
Well, that's probably where I have my issue with Urantia, is probably because of the Jesus story. I'm one of the people that, honestly, there were at least 9 other deities before Jesus who were born from a virgin mother on December 25th, had 12 followers. died on a cross, was resurrected after 3 days, and so on and so forth. The same story over and over and over again. And it's just
Yeah,
like, how many times can you tell me the same story
the
before I say,
Urantia
you know
book
what?
doesn't do that. It
What's
doesn't
that?
talk about it. The Urantia book doesn't talk about that stuff at all. When it talks about Jesus, it has 1,000 pages. It goes through his life. It tells what he did, and supposedly it's being told by angels that were there, so recorded everything exactly as it was. And those are the ones that are channeling this information. And it explains his role in the universal figures as the leader of the universe. In other words, it has nothing to do with dogma or religion. It delineates different roles that he has played and his role in the universe. So it gives a whole new perspective on the Bible story that puts it in a sense that really is more palatable, it more believable, and makes more sense to the soul as opposed to what they forced upon us.
Well, I definitely get where you're
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
from.
So
It's
I'm
still
not
based
trying to
on the
be an
same
advocate, but
story. Yeah.
um, I found it fascinating. So, but there's plenty of other topics too. You know,
What other topics did you have?
reincarnation, for example. Um, you know, they've proven now that DNA carries memories.
Cellular DNA, yes.
To me, that explains reincarnation. So that puts it in a nutshell. It could be just memories of something in your genes. Doesn't necessarily mean, although it could mean, and ultimately, since there's only one I am, what does it really matter? But
Mhm.
so I don't know. I don't know if reincarnation is an actual thing or if it's just a progression of memories in this sphere of this one mind that we belong to.
See, I love that topic. I also love the near-death experience topic. There's so many
Yeah.
great topics that we could talk about on here.
I interviewed Daniel Brinkley. Are you familiar with him?
Oh,
Love
definitely. When I
Daniel.
made 2012 the online movie, he leads it off
Oh,
yeah,
have
yeah.
you met him too?
No, I haven't met him.
Oh, I met him in person a couple times. He's a great guy, man.
Funny guy.
Yeah, he's nice. We used to host expos here in the city, our magazine, and he was one of our speakers one year.
Hmm.
So I got to meet him.
Very
But
cool.
I love his near-death experience. I wrote a story for The Edge, an article called "I've had 5 near-death experiences."
Wow.
Only mine were I was in the room with 5 of my loved ones as they've died. So to me, that was my near-death. You know, it's a different take on the whole thing. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wrote how each death was perfect for that individual.
Hmm.
But but I've never actually died and come back like Daniel. You know?
Well, I see we got a bunch of people joining in here on
Yeah.
Zoom. I'm going to unmute the room. And if anyone wants to jump in and talk, introduce yourself, say hi. Your microphones are unmuted.
Hi guys, I'm JJ.
Mark.
This is Mark.
Hi, JJ and Mark. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So all you see of my picture is my Beware of Poet sign.
Yes.
I don't know how to put a photo up there. I'm gonna have to figure that out.
Well, if you're on a computer, it's lower left-hand side, I believe.
Yeah.
On the lower left-hand side
Yeah.
on your computer, I believe where it says stop video. I believe you can do it there, or it's probably in your settings. You'll figure it out. Hopefully, you'll get your the video up.
Yeah, I'm seeing everyone else. I can put a better picture up is all, but yeah, but I'll figure that out. Yeah.
So
right,
what
cool.
brought up this impromptu video chat?
I want people to come out here and just say hi, get their feet wet in the Zoom chat so we can, I'm going to be doing this quite often. And I want people to join aboard. Like, for example, tomorrow night, we're going to be doing what led to your spiritual awakening video. So that's going to be fun. And I want people to come out and tell us, because everyone's got amazing stories to tell about how they became awakened and what led up to that. So.
Yeah, and it's especially hard to find a place, you know what I mean? Especially where you're at that you feel safe enough to do it.
So where are you guys right now?
Northern Michigan.
Okay. And how do you find that the community is there for awakened people?
There is
Small-minded. This is like the heart of like Baptist country.
Oh gosh. So it's the Northern Bible Belt.
Yeah.
It's a Bible belt.
Yep.
I'm from a
Uh,
small town in northern Minnesota, and it's pretty similar up there in the narrow thinking.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty bad around here.
It's really hard. It's really hard to get people to kind of even start beginning to understand where you're coming from when you even discuss this awakening thing or the ascension, or it's just you kind of just give up after a while.
Well, at
Because
least
it's
you
like,
have each other, right?
yes,
Right?
we
Yep.
do. That's how our awakening
That's how it
started.
started, was with us meeting
Aw.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
Just a
it
quick
threw me
shout
into
out
it.
to on YouTube to Dean Arbs. Thanks for the super chat. That's great. At least, like I said, you got each other, and yeah, that's a start. You can build that community from there. Maybe start your own mini drum circle.
Yeah. We were actually just playing with little poi balls outside.
Uh-huh. Well, it is a
In
little
20
chilly
degree
out
weather
there,
in the
though,
snow.
isn't it? Right?
It is.
Yep.
So, do you guys have kids, or are they
Yep,
grown? Or?
we have a 16-year-old daughter.
Okay. And how do you find the awakening process is going in that
She's
area?
in such a rebellious stage. Anything that we really believe in, she doesn't want anything to do with it.
That sounds like the rest of us at that age.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
some of it makes sense to her. Other things, like it's so way off in like left field to where she's at, spiritually matured, that it's just you can only explain so much.
Yeah. I was fortunate that my daughter, by the time she was 16, she pretty much got it. And plus, her mother's metaphysical, her dad is obviously metaphysical. So, she had that all throughout her life. One time we went to see this one spiritualist, and it might have been a few days later that, she was up in her room. I was living in a townhouse at the time, and she comes running down the stairs and runs outside, and she slams the door. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll give her a few minutes to figure out, let her figure it out and chill out a little. So, a couple minutes later, I go outside, and she's sitting in there in a meditation pose, meditating on the sidewalk. I'm like, yeah, that's
That'd
my
be
girl.
awesome to see.
That's my girl. So, yeah.
Yeah, Sky kind of wants to learn how to meditate a little bit, but she's at that age where it's all about her phone and alone time in her room.
Yeah. Well, with you guys as her parents, she'll get it. It'll seep in, it has no choice.
Mhm.
Yeah, which all of this, it's basically, we were kind of catapulted into it back in April of 2018. And it's been a chaotic journey, but beautiful journey since then.
Well, that's awesome that you guys, at least you're going together in the middle of nowhere, community with nobody else awake in there, but still are pushing forward and shedding your light. And the beauty of that is that, I've mentioned this before, that we're all beacons of light everywhere we are. And there's reasons why you might be that one little beacon of light up there in Michigan. You're needed to connect the grid together.
Yeah.
So you're playing a huge role up there, even if you are, the awakened people are few and far between. You are holding that light for that energy in the northeast quadrant on the grid. So thank you.
I think we've changed a few minds.
A
Like
few of them.
Scotty
We got a few of them in there.
Good.
Like,
Good.
oh,
To
that
at least
makes
start
sense.
thinking. Yep.
So how do you bring up conversation if you want
Hold
to
on a
awaken somebody without
I'm gonna
actually
step away a
forcing
second,
it?
guys. I'll be right back.
Usually it's, well, what we found that like it's more so that like younger 20s that kind of gravitate more toward it. Like it's they have more questions, and once they start asking the questions is when we kind of go in there and
And a lot of it's like bringing up, like you said, about the other 9 deities before Christ with the same story and the same background, and
Yeah.
bring that up to them and show them that. And then all of a sudden the Bible doesn't hold so much power for them.
yeah, it's a lot of conditioning that you got to try to get them to shed. You know what I mean? That was a huge thing with us, especially me, is I had a whole ton of not just religious conditioning, but family conditioning, environmental conditioning that I had to just get rid of.
Educational conditioning
Yeah.
as well.
Yes, there was a
Propaganda,
lot of
indoctrination.
there was a lot of it. It was it all started off with Kundalini, like spontaneous Kundalini back in April of 2018, and for 5 months that was completely active. It kind of threw my whole world into like a whirlwind.
So explain that to people listening, because some people listening might not understand what a spontaneous Kundalini is.
Well, when me and him met in
January
of 2018, and we actually became one in this 3D realm April 15th. Well, on April 16th, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning. I was just waking up and I was laying on my stomach, and all of a sudden I had this electric pressure at my tailbone, and it kind of up each vertebrae. And by the time it hit my head or the crown, it was like this euphoric explosion. I seen the most beautiful set of eyes blink at me a couple times, and it was like, what was that? It basically is, what was that?
Was it yourself? Were they your own eyes looking back at you?
Yeah, like it's well, at that point I had no idea what had just happened. It scared me. It was so intense, it scared me because I didn't know any of this stuff beforehand. And then it's like I would get these almost like energy downloads that would like knock me to my knees, where I like know something, and then it'd validate itself. There'd be so many synchronicities that kind of brought information, where it was like unlocking this information at the same time. It was nuts.
we'd start having like these random off the wall bizarre conversations, and then we would walk into a bookstore and find books on what we were just talking about that prior to we had absolutely no knowledge about whatsoever.
Quick shout out in YouTube to Beyond the Blush. Thank you for the super chat. Imagine what life would be like had this all been encouraged from birth, you know?
No.
And
How
we
different
didn't
the
have
world
that
would be.
indoctrination in school.
Oh my, yeah,
Yeah.
unfathomably.
I wonder, and because of how many generations this has gone on, through our liberal educational system. Imagine had we, for the last 200 years, encouraged our children to have their metaphysical abilities expanded, or to teach them at a young age. This is how you see an aura. This is how you have an out-of-body experience. I wonder what that would have done, with all these subsequent generations since then.
Yeah.
How much further advanced we would be.
You are, and how at one you are with somebody else. You know what I mean? That love your neighbor as yourself, that Jesus taught, or any other prophet tried teaching. You know what I mean? It's because once you have this awakening, you realize that this oneness, that law of one, it goes so deep. It goes with the negative and the positive of who and what somebody is, and that's the exact same thing you have within you.
Quick shout out to everybody in YouTube right now. As I try to go back and forth here, I see Desiree, Sherry, Indigo, Skylar, Dawn, Jasmine, Beyond the Blush, Awakened Angel. Thank you for joining us all here for this impromptu chat. I'm surprised we have this many people, honestly, without really telling anybody about it.
Yeah, I was bored. I had nothing else to do, so this is good for me.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're going to be doing this often, and for those listening that want to know, okay, well, how do I know ahead of time? Well, either you're on YouTube and subscribe to In5D, and you hit the bell notification and you got alerted when it came up, or you follow me on Twitter or on Facebook. I will put a heads up there, usually within at least a few minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes an hour early. And tomorrow, as a matter of fact, like I said, I'll be doing a show tomorrow, what led to your awakening. So I want to hear from everybody about what it is that led to your spiritual awakening. And it's shows like this, like today, this is just a spiritual chat. You can get your feet wet, come on in and join us here on Zoom, and say hello, and maybe some topics that you would like to have us discuss in the future, because I'm open to anything. And this is our forum. It's not just mine and In5D's I'm opening this up to everyone for all of us to chat. So what topics would you guys like to hear or talk about in the future?
Oh, geez.
Oh, put me
the,
on the spot.
the ascension process is a good one. The
Okay.
entire ascension process.
Is
Even
there
like
a particular
like
process?
alchemy,
Mhm.
alchemy and balancing, like the divine masculine and divine feminine within each of us, and the balancing act that it takes to kind of get that to become one.
So those are all great suggestions. I think a good one would be removing negative energies, because so many
That-
people
yep.
don't realize how often we have that. If you go to the store and you give a cashier $5 and she gives you change back for $3.11. Do you know how much energy is on that $3.11? You know,
Mhm.
simple little things like that. You buy something on Craigslist that you really like, and you buy it used, obviously. So that has like a dresser or something that's got who knows how many different, energy attachments that are on it. So yeah, the simple things that a lot of people don't think about. Just going out and, if you're opening up a door, who touched that door beforehand? What energy was attached to that person? Because everything has energy and everything is energy. So
What was it we
that would be
learned on
cool stuff.
Gaia? It was detectable for up to 30 days.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, we were
believe
watching
that.
something on Gaia,
Mhm.
and it was saying that that energy is like detectable for 30 days.
They'd put DNA strands in culture jars and then add I think it was electrodes to it, and the
Yeah.
electrodes would follow the
Oh.
pattern of the DNA, and then
Yes.
after they took the DNA out, it would still follow the same pattern for 30 days.
I forgot the name of that experiment, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
We found it on
Phantom
Gaia
DNA.
TV.
Phantom DNA experiment.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think
believe
so.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Do you think it's possible to have such a powerfully strong aura yourself that interacting with these items that you were talking about, the energy on them, the power of your aura just dissipates it automatically because it's irrelevant to anything you know now? So you don't have to worry about that energy anymore because your aura is strong enough to automatically just appreciate that object for what it is without the energy affecting you in any way?
I think it's
Well,
always
I
a good idea to protect yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know you can't vibrate in two different ways at one time. You know what I mean? If you're vibrating higher, that low vibration they cannot coexist at the same time in that
Right.
one space.
Right.
So I don't know if your vibration
I wouldn't
was
say it
higher,
would dissipate it,
you might not
but
be able to. It might not be able to reach you. You know what I mean? It might not be able to reach up that high. You're going to have to bring your vibration down low enough for that to even do anything to you.
Yeah, if you're interested to do that. Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I agree with that. I feel that. Yeah.
So Jennifer's asking on YouTube, Thursday, will Greg be at Sology Gathering? I didn't know that there was one, so apparently I won't be. If it's an open thing, I'd consider it. Nobody let me know about it, so probably not. Though that brings up a good point, though. What I was thinking about doing, what I've done in the past here in Sarasota, Siesta Key, is I've had those In5D beach meetups, and I'm just thinking about starting those up again on top of everything that we're going to be doing here on Zoom. So if you're in the area, maybe planning on, a monthly In5D meetup, you can come here. If you're from outside of the area, you could come down for the weekend or whatever.
Where are you
meet
at again?
everybody. Yeah,
There we
and
are.
Where are you at?
Siesta Key,
We're in-
Florida.
Florida. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a
Florida.
Gulf Coast of Florida, but it would be fun, I think, to get that going again. What I usually do is I have a little portable amplifier and speaker microphone that we just, if you want to talk, because sometimes we get groups of, 20, 30 people that show up, and we pass the microphone around and don't have anything specifically scheduled for topics. We just, whatever anyone wants to talk about, that's what we talk about.
How far is Port Charlotte from where you're at?
Oh, that's not that far. My parents live in Fort Myers, and I can get to my parents' house in 50 minutes, but I have a
I
lead
might be
foot.
coming down there in March, so if you have one of those meetups in, if it happens to coincide at the same time, I would definitely do what I can to see if I can make it. So that'd
Yeah,
be cool.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Well, chances are it would be on a Sunday. And then you'd have to find beach parking. In March might be difficult with, all these different spring breaks going on all throughout March.
Yeah. Things would work
It could
out
be
or they
tricky,
wouldn't.
but if you can,
Yeah.
if you are really good at manifesting, you'll get that spot.
Exactly. If it's meant to be, it will happen. Right.
Yes.
It'll work out. Right.
We were just talking about a hammock between two palm trees.
Yeah, we were just talking about a hammock between two palm trees.
So Kathy is on YouTube is saying that she's in Orlando, so that's not too far down. You could make it down for a beach meetup, and it's great because you can actually, when you do that, you'll be able to place the face with the names, and you'll recognize people from YouTube and Facebook, and this is how we build our community, and this is what this is all about: building our community, bringing together Star Family.
I have a YouTube channel. I have 3 poems I put on there. I haven't been on there in years.
Well, maybe you should start putting stuff on there.
Yeah, I'm going to have to now. I just got this new computer that I'm talking to you on that I might start doing more stuff like that now.
Well, what's your YouTube channel? Maybe people
Crandall
can already start subscribing to it.
It's Doug Crandall, as far as I recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And what do you guys also have a YouTube channel, Geraldine? And
We do not.
okay.
We haven't even started. Like, we wound up getting our life coaching certifications, but we don't even know where to go with it yet.
Right. Well, I think starting a YouTube channel would be a good idea, and that's
Doug
something. As a matter of fact, Doug, are you listening? You were thinking about where to go and what to do. Coaching, perhaps. Some kind of coaching, perhaps. Doug.
Yeah, I'm listening. I hear you. I would do that. I just don't like people.
You're an introvert. You're an antisocial introvert.
I love gatherings. I just hate people.
Yeah.
So
That's tough. That's tough because Siesta Keys, in the past, it's been the #1 beach for I don't know how many years, in the world. But there's a lot of people there, and it's funny because I'll be on the beach and there will be times where there's, it might be spring break and there's, thousands of people on the beach, and I'll find my little spot off in somewhere away from everyone, and I'll be able to meditate. I can do a third eye meditation, and basically it's me and nobody else on the beach. Everything else is blocked out. In the past, I wasn't able to do that because I had attention deficit disorder. But once you get rid of all the clutter, and you really find yourself and learn how to ground and clear that clutter, it's easy to do.
Do you happen to see like visuals when you meditate at all?
Yes.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
You're not crazy.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I have never not seen things when I close my eyes. My entire life, I close my eyes, I see things. And I told my wife this, and I thought everyone did. And
I thought everyone did too.
She said, no, that's odd, but I always see images. Some of them are quite fascinating. They're actually, most of them are. So yeah, it's something I've always seen.
On In5D.com, I have an article. I think it's called "Do This Before You Go to Bed" or "Do This Before You Go to Sleep." One of those things. I teach people how to open up their third eye, and it's really easy to do. You do it right before you go to bed, or you do it as you're going to bed. And just close your eyes, and what's going to happen is you start to see almost like a translucent haze when your eyes are closed, and just keep breathing deeply, exhaling deeply, slowly, and eventually that haze it might turn into like a bluish purplish light, a swirl, and eventually what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing either the outline of images or maybe even an eye looking back at you, and then the images and or the eye will become clearer and clearer. Then you can even start hearing audio, channeling, as in channeling your higher self. You might hear, or in my case, beings from Zeta Reticuli I've gotten into contact with. So
that's me.
She talks to aliens all the time.
Tell me about that.
The first time it was really funny because during the Kundalini, every time I would meditate, I would see these beings. Well, first it started off as a lot of faces, but I'd see these beings. Well, it felt like I had been blocked for about a week. I didn't get any energy downloads whatsoever. And I was telling Mark about it. I was like, man, I wonder if I'm doing something wrong or if something's blocked, or it almost feels like there's like an interference between what I had, all those energy downloads. Well, we're laying in bed one night and we meditate before we go to bed, do guided meditations, things like that. And I'm laying there and I have my eyes shut. And all of a sudden I see like the entire galaxy. And then I see this translucent, you would almost think it was a gray, but it wasn't a gray, but you could see through it and you could see the galaxy through it. You could see the shadows of its eyes and its mouth. You could see it kind of smile. He faded back and another one came into play. They would reach in like this. They like pick something in my head and I'd see a bright light and they'd smile at each other. And then the other one did it. And I told him, I was like, babe, I think my alien friends are back. And he's like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, what? He's like, at that point, I was thinking about us sitting on the porch in a sausage game.
Did they tell you where they're from, or did you get a sense or an idea?
Nope, they didn't say anything. All they did was they like reached in. You could see their hands reach in, and you'd see this bright light. And then they smiled at each other, and then the other one did it. And that's when I opened my eyes and told him it. You know what I mean? My alien friends are back.
See, these are the kind of cool things that we get from having live chats like this. You know, so many great stories out there. I love it. That's fantastic. You know, and getting back to the, you know, the meditation that I was telling people about, that closed eye, do this before you go to sleep meditation to open your third eye. What I'm working on right now is a guided meditation for that, where you can actually listen to that, and I'll be guiding people through that process. And hopefully I'll have that done within the month. You know, I've got a lot on my plate, but I've already basically written out the script for it, and I need to do the video and the audio and all that good stuff. But, you know, hopefully within the next, maybe even 2 weeks, I'll have the video up here on YouTube, and, you know, everybody can.
I tend to meditate a lot better with guided meditations. And I think a lot of people who are actually just getting new into meditation, I think guided meditations are a really good idea for them, because it kind of shuts off your thinking process when your thoughts are kind of all over the place. And
You
it
don't
gets you to
spend so
focus
much time
on,
thinking if you're doing it right.
yeah, you're focusing on that one thing. So especially people who are new to meditation in and of itself, I think guided meditations are a really, really good place to start.
I totally agree. And on YouTube, I just want to give a quick shout out to people that have joined us here, over there. Phil, Mary, Randy, Kathy. Yeah, and I think that's it. I'd have to scroll back to catch all the people that I've missed in the past. And shout out to Phil Christophers. Thank you for the super chat. He says, may the gateway to 5D be open to you. May it be open to all of us. I'm expecting something huge to happen by the end of this year. And as
This is going to be a big year.
This is going to be a real big year.
As I mentioned at the beginning of this chat, you know, I had that vision of something, the Earth that we know will be unrecognizable by the end of the year, the planet that we know, where we're living right now. And then a few days later, Alison Coe said the same thing on James Gilliland's show, and used that word.
I've been saying that for the last couple of years. If something's going to knock the world on its ass, and then I told him by 2020, it's going to be like 2020 is the year where it's going to,
You know, and I've said it in the past that.
So what does all this portend?
Pardon me?
So what does all this portend then? So what's your way to counteract, or even if you can't counteract it, then live with what may come? In other words,
I don't think we
be
want
proactive with it.
No, I think what's going to happen is like it's going to get chaotic, because the whole system's going to kind of get shook up a little bit. But on the other end of that chaos, it's kind of like sources reining it in. It's tying in all the loose ends. You know what I mean?
It's ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos is exactly. Yeah, I've been talking about this on In5D for years about Pluto and Capricorn. And, you know, while I had the vision of the event, what will happen, what we will feel when the event happens, that unconditional love of a magnitude that's never been felt physically on this planet ever before.
Yeah.
It's just something that people need to experience, I guess, on their own in a subjective way. I don't know. I've put it out there as many times as I can. And I've had other people verify and say that they've seen and felt similar things. But I think by the end of this year, that's where we're heading. And it's going to be coming on and fast and furious. And we've already seen that with, here it is, the 14th right now, 14th of January, when we're doing this recording. And doesn't it seem like it was like a month or longer ago that it was New Year's Eve?
It's insane how fast it's
It
going.
does.
It's crazy,
It does.
man. It is. All of last year seemed to me to fly by. Just absolutely flew. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no,
weird.
2020 is
Yes.
definitely gonna be it's
Kind of like when you flush. Kind of like when you flush a toilet.
kind of come into foreplay.
Kind of like when you flush a toilet. It's all turmoil, and
yeah.
especially right. It's like when you flush a toilet. It's all crazy, and right down near the end, right before it all, is where it gets craziest. You know, and I think that's where we're at. Things are getting craziest. We're coming to the end of that funnel, if you will, where this stuff is coming to a head and fruition. It's what it feels like. The energy is building towards this. And I think, yeah, it could definitely get crazy, especially when Trump feels he's going to feel threatened this year with this election coming up. Who knows what this dumb fucker will do? Excuse my language.
But the whole mindset of it is, instead of thinking like it's an end to something, it is a beginning to this absolutely amazing state of unconditioned and limitless love. It's just going to be something that we're so not used to or so conditioned.
It's going to scare a lot of people.
It is.
It is going to scare a lot of people.
It is.
So what I was covering earlier tonight when I did the mid-month energy report, if you look at the Schumann resonance, you're going to see lines, one line going across at the 7.83 resonance, then one down below at the 16, one at 20. And we're starting to see all these different layers coming on as all these veils are lifting. And what we're seeing is what I believe is the new earth already being imposed into these Schumann resonance readings, where we're seeing these higher resonances, the higher dimensions are starting to bleed through, even on the Schumann resonance. It's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, the collective conscious, it's starting to actually kind of entertain the grid in itself, and those higher vibrations are winning out over those lower vibrations, and it's awesome.
So I've got everybody unmuted in Zoom. So if there's anything you'd like to say or join in or say hi, you're welcome to join us at any time. I'm posting the link in YouTube as well.
Everybody's too shy.
No, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. What are we supposed to do? Hi.
Just get your feet wet. Say hello. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Hi.
Can anyone see me, or do you just see that picture that?
Just see the picture. You don't have your audio set up yet.
How do I don't know how to, okay, that's the idea. Weird.
Yeah,
well, I'm here.
You'll get it.
I'm not a sign.
Like if lower left-hand corner of Zoom, if you click on start video.
Oh, okay. I did.
That's
there you are.
Oh,
there we go.
There you go. Welcome.
Well, yeah, thanks, man.
Hey, here's Doug.
I hope the glare from my head doesn't.
You made it. Awesome.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Well, it's great to place a face with everybody too, with the names,
absolutely, yeah.
a voice and everything. You know, that's what I love about this platform is, you know, this is how we bring people together, and no matter where you are around the world. And you know what I'll be doing, I know it's really late, it's like almost 9 o'clock here on the East Coast, so that means it's probably like 2 o'clock in London and out there. Chances are they're not here right now. If they are, they are serious night owls. But what I'll be doing is having some chats probably at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time here in the United States, so I can catch them in their evenings over there, so we can bring everybody aboard in essence, from all around the world.
Well, I found you on Facebook. You popped
Me
up on
too.
Impromptu on Facebook. That's where I decided to come in.
Me
Oh, that's
too.
awesome.
I did the same thing. I was telling him earlier. I just saw it tonight. In fact, two of them. I've seen them before. I just never paid really attention too much till tonight. I did, and here we are.
Yeah, it's really cool. So you guys are all stars on the In5D YouTube channel now.
Yay!
Yeah, it's awesome because
famous.
people get to hear your stories, and it'll encourage other people to come on here and tell their stories as well.
Right.
Well, I've been kind of sharing mine for years. I write a lot of poetry. I belong to a poetry site. I self-published a book of poetry. I've interviewed a lot of people, and I've made a mark in a sense, in my own small way, for being a housewife.
Right.
So I'm not, I've got 4 kids, and they're all 4 well-adjusted children that are ready to face the world on their own and at a young age. And, so we did something right. So
Definitely.
now I'm entering the time of my life where, what does Doug want to do when I grow up?
Yeah.
Empty nest
Maybe
syndrome.
life coach counseling. Who knows?
Except for those damn people, yeah.
So I see
Well,
on YouTube, there actually is a person here from Liverpool, Dave Bongo Slide. And he says it's 2 a.m. there. So there's our night owl. Hey, Dave.
Dave.
Welcome to the chat.
I love Liverpool, man.
Good
Long live the Beatles.
Yeah. That's funny because and for the past week or so, occasionally I get on these Beatles kicks, and I got onto one a couple nights ago. I couldn't sleep at all. So I was watching this video on this, it's the Fab Four. It's a tribute band for the Beatles, and they're fantastic. I was watching them, and all of a sudden I'm like, I should learn that song on guitar. And here it is, like 1:30 in the morning. I've got my guitar out and I'm learning Beatles songs at 1:30 in the morning. And here we are,
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
Dave from Liverpool. That's great.
Hey, you should check out the Mona Lisa twins on Facebook. They do Beatles cover songs. They're 2 twins, girls, and they're incredibly good.
That's awesome.
Mona Lisa twins. Check them out when you get a free time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where's Liverpool? What's he got to say?
Well, he said Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, lad. Laddie.
Yeah.
Makes you want to watch Cross
what I
Universe.
find fascinating about the Beatles is I have a book, and I think it's called Billy's Back. And it's the memoirs of Billy Shears. And it's basically based upon the theory that Paul died in 1967, which there's a documentary that you can find on Vimeo called The Winged Beatle. And it's so compelling that when you watch it and listen to it, if you don't think that Paul's dead, you might by the time you get done watching it. It's such a well done documentary. So
I don't know, man. I've seen that, and I didn't find it quite as compelling. I don't buy into it. I thought it, and it's been a while now, but I thought it had several flaws that in reasoning that I can't for the life of me remember what they were because it's been too long. But so I never bought into that. But there's a whole group of people out there that believe it.
I did. I bought into it after I watched that documentary. It was very compelling, very well put together. And perhaps there were some things on there that I didn't necessarily agree with either, but I've always been that person that does question everything. And I encourage everyone to question everything. That's basically how most of us got here anyway.
Absolutely. I was raised Catholic, and I never, ever felt comfortable in the Catholic religion, ever. Even though I still feel loyal to it to this day, which is weird. But yeah, Catholicism. You know that the word Catholic means universal. So in essence, it was meant to be the universal church, which is pretty much the church of one and oneness and unity, like we're talking about here. And it got bastardized by the man's tenets and making rules for this God that we're supposed to worship, but the word Catholic itself means universal. So I think in essence, that was the point or the hope for the church, but it clearly fell short,
That's interesting. how long were you involved in the Catholic Church?
I mean, I went to catechism through. I left Minnesota in 9th grade and moved to Texas, so that's when I went to church down there a few times, but I didn't do. I never went through confirmation. You know, something you do when you're like senior in high school or something like that. So I never did that. I was never confirmed. My soul is damned and all that. It's not confirmed. I say that tongue in cheek. But I went through catechism. We used to have to walk to catechism on Wednesday afternoon from the high school, the junior high. And we'd stop and get high on the way, smoke pot. And I remember sitting in the church and I'd be paranoid, thinking I'm going to hell. And the bells are ringing and the nuns are walking by staring. And I knew they knew I was a sinner and stoned. I knew they knew. You know, it wasn't pleasant, my experiences with Catholicism. I was terrified of going to hell. You know,
right.
What is this hell you're telling me I'm going to? I was in trouble all the time. So I knew for sure that was my destiny, you know, based on what they were telling me.
You've seen that video where I think it was a Catholic bishop admitted that there is no hell and they made it up.
Oh yeah. The whole concept has been made up.
Yeah.
So
this is what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to put this up there, and it's a screen share of, that's Paul and that's Paul. They don't look anything alike. These guys, and I know that they did have body doubles also back then. These two, nothing alike. These two, nothing alike. This one right here. Here's one picture. Here's the other one. That there's no effing way they're both Paul McCartney. So I'll get out of that.
But those pictures weren't aligned though either. That one you showed there, the one head was down like a little bit. So the eyes were aligned, but I think the picture size might be something to do with it too. So I mean,
well, you can see the ear is like lower right there. Maybe if that was up.
So exactly.
But even so the eyes don't look alike. That looks like a completely different. It's not obviously a mirror image. But if you look at similar pictures like this one right here, and there are just so many other pictures, and this one down here doesn't look much alike one from the other. And what they're saying is Billy Shears, and they left all these clues of Paul McCarthy, Fall McCarthy. One was in an album cover, which was really interesting. I'm not going to find it right now, and I'm not going to waste everyone's time. But it was an album cover where it supposedly said Paul, but if you folded it in the middle, it went from Paul to Bill, which was Bill for Billy Shears. So just really interesting.
Well, I don't know. It'd be one hell of a hoax to have pulled off over the years, and the guy who wrote the book on Billy Shears he's still claiming to be Paul McCartney.
Yeah,
right?
Apparently, this fake Paul is like 4 or 5 years older than the original Paul, so he's probably not going to be around much longer. But it's stories like that catch my interest, and I've gone down the rabbit hole on so many different ones. Some you kind of laugh at, sometimes, like here's one that, people are buying into, but I don't believe it myself. It's the Nasara thing. I've been following that since the 90s. And it's hot air and bullshit as far as I'm concerned. I hope and I wish that it was real, but it's been like 20 some odd years that it's been out there since the late 90s, as far as I can recall, maybe 97, 98. So that's at least 20.
What is it you said again? What is it you're talking about?
Nasara.
I don't even know what that is. So.
It's the RV, the reset that, a lot of people are talking about.
I don't know. Whoever's talking about it, not in front of me. I don't know what that is. So.
Yeah, there are a lot of people. You'll find a lot of channelers that are.
But what is it? What is it? It's a reset. What do you mean? What is it?
a financial reset where all the debt will be called in basically and paid off by this one group, and there will be an account where you can tap into and use that money for things that will benefit the earth and our planet.
Okay.
And it sounds wonderful on the surface, but they've been promising the same thing for, like I said, 20 some odd years. And
sounds like that Nigerian prince that has millions of dollars for
right. So
yeah, that would be ideal if someone would do that. But
yeah, I love the idea. I love the premise of it, but
and if I had a little bit of forewarning, I'd buy the shit out of everything. No, just kidding.
So once again, I've unmuted everybody in the chat room. If anyone wants to jump in and say hi and join us, you're more than welcome to. And I'll throw the link down in YouTube where you're there. And Mark McDowell is talking about Alex Collier, 1994. Ralph Amagran, I think that was his real name. Alex Collier, Ralph Amagran. Check that out. Mark, I did follow Alex for a while. He's got some interesting stuff, some compelling stuff, but I don't know, there's something off there. And I'll just leave it at that because I don't like talking bad about anyone. You know, like I said, Alex Collier does have a lot of compelling stuff out there though. So who do we have here? We have somebody new here. You're welcome.
Carolyn or Julia?
Yeah, Julia popped up there. You with us, Julia?
I am.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
You changed your picture.
Yeah, I was getting sick of that old one.
Julia's a regular on here. She's a seasoned veteran on the In5D Zoom channel.
Well, I'm a rookie, so hi, Julia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm happy as a clam could ever be.
A good way to be then.
I have proof that I'm happy too.
I forgot to make a post on Patreon about this. I'm sorry to my Patreon people. I got my Patreon family. I try to keep them abreast of all these live chats that we have. But so yeah, I do have a Patreon channel that's really cool. On the first Wednesday of every month, we have it's an In5D Insiders Club private chat. It does not go out on YouTube or anywhere else. It just stays on Zoom. First Wednesday of every month. And if there's something that is really important, we'll put it out on In5D. If I get their permission or if it comes from me, and I feel that it's in the highest good for everyone to know, you'll know about it. You won't be, shaded from anything that is really important information. That will always come out and that will always be free. And if it's from somebody else and they give me permission to tell you guys about it on YouTube, but not through their words, but through my voice, maybe I'll do it that way. But I need their permission first to do it. But like I said, that's a private chat that we have on our In5D Patreon first Wednesday of every month. So that'll be fun.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, let's check out what's going on in YouTube land. So quick shout out to everyone that's there. And yeah, we have confirmation there of other people that are aware of Jasara, and they're saying, yeah, I think it's BS too. Yeah. Marta is saying hi to you, Julia.
Hello, how are you, Marta?
In YouTube.
Oh yeah, well, she can't say, I forgot. Anyway, hello.
You have a following already. See what happens when you come on. And
oh, Lordy.
they're going to say, Greg, shut up. Let Julia talk.
Well, that picture is actually one that was taken at sunrise at the Isis temple in Egypt on 11/11.
Oh, wow.
My new picture. Yep.
That's awesome. What kind of feeling did you get when you were there?
Well, that was an interesting question.
Sometimes people almost channel, like, what they're going through and experiencing.
Well, I was with 14 people, and there was a lot of light language being spoken. It was dark because it was before the sun came up. And I actually was not feeling like Julia. I was feeling like my higher self.
Almost
And
as if
see,
you were guided to be there along
oh
with
yeah, I
everyone in your
absolutely had
group.
been. I had
Yeah.
been. I had been, yes. But it was very interesting because I know I've been with these people in past lifetimes, but I was not experiencing what was going on from a human perspective. So that was very interesting. That happened a lot that whole trip. So
Did you do a journal or anything while you were there? Take notes and journal every day?
I had planned on it, but we were often up at 3 a.m. and out until 9 p.m. and would pass out. And I was exhausted the whole time. So that didn't happen, but I have written about it just to friends, and I've screenshotted it or emailed it to myself so I can remember. But it was
What
very
led you to
interesting.
going there specifically? What was drawing you to be in that particular geographical area?
Well, I had a reading with Daniel Scranton at the end of May, and a friend of mine was in the reading with me, and we knew that we had known each other for a really long time. She lives in Rhode Island and I'm in Georgia. So Daniel was communicating with the Arcturian Council, and I'm Arcturian. And so we were asking how we knew each other. And they said, well, you made crystals and you worked together and you made and programmed crystals. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then they said, and your crystals were later placed all around the earth. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And so I was thinking, and then I asked, well, if we were to travel together, where should we go? And I was thinking, well, it needs to be someplace in the US because, I wasn't thinking that I'd be going anywhere. And I was thinking of Arkansas because of all the,
Quartz
Atlantean
crystals.
crystal.
Yeah.
Right. And I found out since that there were 3 Atlantean crystals. There were 7, I think there were 7 large Arcturian crystals that were used to power their civilization. And when the fall was imminent, they moved them to various locations. And I think 3 ended up in Arkansas because they had massive underground crystal farms there. So I fully expected them to say, yes, Arkansas would be a great place to go. And they said, no, Egypt. And I thought, that's not going to happen. But then I found out that a friend of mine was leading a group, leading a tour. And I thought, well, I'm going, because I wouldn't go with just strangers and random people. So we ended up going with her, and that's how I ended up there.
Do you own a lot of crystals, and do you ever experience like making grids and little patterns with them? And
no, and it's I have a lot of crystals, and my daughter's probably got a better memory for what everything is than I do, but I haven't made any grids because in the way my brain works, I guess I always feel like it needs to be symmetrical, and that
oh
I
no,
need to have,
let your guidance do it. Just take
I know.
sticks of selenite and move them around and make whatever pattern you want, and you're going to be guided
that's
to do
what
exactly.
I have to do that, but along those same lines, I have them arranged in a very certain way. And every now and then I'll rearrange them. So I don't know, maybe that's my little Zen garden exercise with crystals. But no, I haven't actually made a grid yet. Can you believe it? I should, but
Yeah.
For whatever reason, every time I see a grid, I see multiples of the same thing. And I'm like, I need to get a whole bunch of, multiples of some basics. And I just never have. So
Maybe you already have exactly what you need, though.
you're right. You're right. I probably do. I know I do. I'm sure I do, because I've chosen them intuitively.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, Greg. I'll do it. I think tomorrow I'll go outside and make a crystal grid.
Yay.
I'll dedicate it to you.
Awesome. I've got this amethyst. It's, I don't know, maybe 2.5 feet, 3 feet tall. I don't know. It's a big amethyst. It's heavy as hell. But inside the amethyst, I put a large quartz crystal. It's kind of like my, it's kind of like orgone or an energy buster or something like that. It helps magnify the energy of the amethyst and, helps protect me. And it's right in the center of the house too. So it just covers the whole area right here. And, that's my little way of protecting myself through crystals.
Well, I did learn before I even learned this about myself, I did learn that we can place etheric crystals, place and program etheric crystals. So
Wait. Explain what etheric crystals are to everyone.
Well, it's just something I don't know. I know how it works for me. I just say, this is what I want. This is how I imagine it looking. I want it here and I want it to do such and such. And see, my daughter, she's 12 now, but when she was about 8 or 9, I started realizing how gifted she was, and she blew my mind because, she could just see things far better than I could at the time. And she was having trouble in school, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, well, I'll talk to your Arcturians and have them place crystals around the school." And I would ask her, "Are they there? Do you see them?" And she would say, "Yes, it's there." And I couldn't see them. And so she's listening to me and making fun of me. She likes to do that now. Somebody was saying earlier about teenager. Well, mine's not even 13, and she'll tease me sometimes now, but
it's awesome.
Anyway, yeah. So anyway, I just started doing it myself and thinking, well, if my friend could, ask for this type of assistance and place these, I just use the word etheric because I don't know what else to call them. But I asked my daughter the other day, I said, well, do we need to reprogram that crystal? Because she was having trouble sleeping. Of course, it was a new moon. And she's like, no, it's still there. And I said, well, was it? I was like, well, maybe, she said it's still there and it was programmed to help me sleep. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just a thing that you can ask your guides and ask for something to be placed that can help you with whatever you're having troubles with. So apparently there's a big one in her bedroom and one in my living room. So
you can go to a gem store and buy these little tiny crystals about an inch or less, and just place them at each corner of your house to protect your house on the outside as well. You can get 10 for $1. They're really inexpensive, but you can use them for protection. I'm just looking forward to the day when we'll be able to touch a crystal and it'll light up like a light bulb. We won't need electricity, and we can use it for various things. I could use a crystal for a guitar amp if I wanted to,
it won't be too long.
No. If things go as planned, it might be by the end of the year. Who knows?
Did you all see that? I saw a video on Facebook about how the pyramids all over the world were energy grids. and they were tapping in. They were like the energy source for the area, and they used those pyramids to siphon energy from the ground, and they had light and electricity and connections to everything. In fact, they were saying they were connected throughout the world with all the other pyramids.
That's true.
It's utterly fascinating, and it's apparently the same kind of design that Tesla came up with on his own. Not design, but understanding of how the Earth the magnetic flow of the Earth is, and tapping into the energy of the power of the Earth, that using that energy to power everything you need. You don't need to pay for any of this because it's available right underneath us. And that's what those pyramids were for. And we've lost that technology. We were set back somehow. And all of that. And I think our spiritual evolution has waned along with that progress we had made back then.
There's an article on In5D. Here it is, right here. Ancient pyramids were high frequency power stations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating, and it makes sense too,
Mm-hmm.
The way it was explained, they had batteries and everything,
Yeah, the high frequency pyramid. It's my understanding also that the pyramids in Giza, once you put that capstone back on, that'll light it right up. It'll power it right up. But they're afraid to, or whoever it is afraid to do that.
Well, the Egyptian government won't allow that right now. Not in this, So yeah, it's going to be a while before that's put back on. But I don't see any reason why it wouldn't still work if but apparently there's battery packs too, which is weird, and I forget the details now. But not far from the pyramids in Giza and all over, there are little things that are batteries that were used to help channel this power of the Earth into the pyramids, and it was quite interesting, man. It was,
I know I remember seeing there was like batteries that they had made too back in the Egyptian times, and they were smaller, not pyramidal size, but batteries that they were actually using way back when.
But those, no, but yeah, I've seen those too. But these are different. These are actually built into the ground as well, and they're not far from the pyramids. In all the pyramids that exist around the world, you'll find these little areas not far from them that have these other weird structures. And if you look at them, they're like battery packs. I was watching another video where a guy was bringing in battery packs to power his solar powered house in Alaska. And the batteries he was bringing in, and he was forming them. And as I was watching him do this, it wasn't long after that I saw this show on the History Channel about the Egyptian pyramids, or not on the History Channel, on Facebook actually. And it was showing these battery areas, and it looked exactly like what that guy had done on that other show I had just seen in Alaska. The battery pack for the solar powered house looked exactly like what they were showing this area around the pyramids looks like. They looked like batteries placed there to help this system work. It was utterly fascinating, and I don't have the knowledge and memory to explain it in better detail than that right now. But it really made freaking sense, man. And that's what these pyramids are for. They're everywhere around the planet. They're all over the place. There has to be a reason for that, and this is the reason.
I agree. What that battery I was talking about before, and we were.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Right.
Yeah, the Baghdad battery, and I want to thank. I think it was Phil on YouTube that brought up the name, and I know I've got this on In5D somewhere, but I looked it up right there, and that's that battery from thousands of years ago that they were using. So it's really fascinating to see this technology, way back when, and to know that there's been advanced technology on this planet for years. Similar to what you were saying with the pyramids, probably having that capacity to power the entire planet with free electricity.
Quite frankly, we were talking earlier, I brought up the Urantia book. The Urantia book explains how this all comes to be and how it comes to pass. And it talks about our ancient civilization that had this technology and why it fell apart. in fact, it had to do with the Adam and Eve thing, which was a default. And our Adam and Eve, apparently every planet in the universe is everywhere. Once they get ready for a spiritual uplifting, they receive an Adam and Eve. Every planet does that has life like ours. So according to this book, Urantia, but our Adam and Eve defaulted. They didn't cause sin, but they made a mistake, tried to speed the process up and not do it the way they were supposed to. And it set our planet back a millennia. And things went to shit after that. And plus it talks about other things and that affected it. But it was quite fascinating that it coincides very much with this lost technology, with these, according to the Urantia book, if things had gone as planned, we'd be 1,000 years or so advanced more than we are right now. But we were set back. So we're way far less in the path than we would have normally been if things had gone the way they should have. So
yeah, you know, and there's so many inventions that have been suppressed in the patent office. And once, I have a feeling that, you know, when this event happens, most of us are going to be going off in higher dimensions, but those that are left behind, it's not going to be that bad. You know, they're going to have those inventions be brought to surface that will benefit humanity. It's going to be a better Earth than what it is right now. But because we've been so suppressed and controlled for so long, it should have been a lot better. And I think even by this point in our spiritual evolution, none of us should have to work. We shouldn't have money. There's so many things that we could be doing to better this world, and instead of wasting most of our time working to earn a fiat dollar that's basically worth nothing and losing more each day.
Sorry about that. Sorry, hold on.
That's okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I found that link to when I saw it. I was trying to.
Yeah, there's a screen share on the bottom of the screen where you can share your screen. That little green button. So if there's something you want to share.
There it is. Did I share it?
Yeah, there you are. Okay. I'm not sure.
So that was the video I watched.
Video though, but yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if it'll play the sound in the video. We'll find out.
But you don't. Yeah, I'm just saying that's a link to it. And at least that's a video I watched. It's only 22 minutes long, but it really had a lot of info in that 22 minutes that made sense. And it has a better description of those battery things I was saying.
Okay.
That are built into the ground, just like the pyramids are.
So if I can come in and say something about pyramids and grids and orgone.
Yeah, let me explain to Doug how to get out of the screen. On the top of the screen,
Okay,
you'll see the option up there on the top of your screen to leave. Just
stop share. Oh, okay.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah,
Sorry,
jump on
man.
in.
Sorry.
Welcome to the chat, Desiree.
Hi, I'm Des.
Hi.
You've been lurking for a while.
Welcome
Des.
back.
I actually create orgone, and my best friend actually creates copper pyramids and regular crystal grids out of copper and mirrors. So if I can explain some things that go on with pyramids, I create orgone, and is the energy that that emits frequency. It takes the negative power from the four corners from the bottom and sucks it in through the bottom, and it points out through the top, the positive energy through the top. So that's why there's layers on the pyramid, like, because there's different types of metals and frequencies that are in each one, and it transmutes that negative energy into a more positive and higher vibration, which is why we use copper and all types of different metals. Clear crystal quartz is usually the number one. It's a spiritual enhancer. Clear crystal quartz is an enhancer altogether for mostly any type of energy work that you're working with. And it helps enhance that energy that you're working with to make it stronger and more potent. So when you see, like when Tesla was creating, these, orgone or, the Tesla coils, he's using the power from the crystal, just wrapping the coils around and just emitting the frequency to it changes into a higher frequency. And I've studied a lot with William Hike and and all this stuff. And it's just amazing what orgone can do for you, and the power between crystal grids and all these other things, you know, with all these crystals, you can definitely change your whole life. And the meaning of the purpose of what these pyramids do. I got a few pyramids here. My friend makes them. He's my best friend, but the pyramids are also an enhancer, just like the crystal grid, especially if they're pure copper. Copper is an enhancer, and it helps move the metal and frequency through faster. So when you put a pyramid on top of a crystal grid, it enhances that feeling even more and sparks it even more. And then a pure light from the tip and top of it shoots out for the electrical beams, can see you from billions of light years away. So the energy from the pyramids are actually collided all together and make a trifecta effect on the Earth. So it's kind of cool what it does.
Quite frankly, the book I was talking about, Urantia, says that explains how they connected. They said they had instant communication with the universe, and that explains how they had it. That explains it perfectly. You know, and it's really weird. On a side note, this is a personal thing. I think pyramids also explain interior evolution of the soul or the mind for an individual, and I've written poems about it. It's really weird, and I think a pyramid can be used to show our evolution inside of us internally. I think it is our internal thing that channels that very same energy you were talking about. So anyway, sorry.
Desiree, do you have a website that you can that you sell them on?
I don't have a website, but my friend does.
Hi.
Hi, sweetie.
His name on there is cosmiccreation.org or .com. His name is Thomas Putman, and he's a really good friend of mine. He's out of Peoria, Illinois, and he creates crystal grids, pyramids that are up to 10 feet tall, so you can sit inside and meditate with them. So it you know. Oh, okay. So, and he's trying to teach me how to create them, and I'm going along with it. But I also create things out of wood, like grids with Metatron. Metatron's like my higher guide. So, and I use lots of cool stuff on them. It's just a piece of wood. A child playing with my hair. And I take wood that I find, and I'm guided to create these pieces of grids that, you know, I place them underneath my plants, and the plants love it. And the plants flourish from it. And it's quite amazing what these technologies can do for you. And for just by seeing them with the plants, it changes a lot.
Well, I was on, I tried to look up cosmiccreation.org and .com, and then I tried Cosmic Creations, plural, .org and .com, and I couldn't find anything for either one of those.
Search for pyramid.
I'll have to ask him. I think he's on Facebook too.
Okay.
But Thomas Putman is his name on Facebook, and he's pretty cool.
Okay. So what do you do
but he makes all this stuff.
What do you do with those pyramids outside of what you were just mentioning, putting them over crystals and stuff? Can you actually put them on your head, or?
Yeah, that's one of our main things that we actually do. We actually put them on our head, and it's a good meditation tool. Actually, you get the force.
Yeah. See, I believe that. Yeah.
All four of the angels, and then you get Metatron and Xenophon from below and above.
Okay. Because I've got something
really
similar to that. Hang on. I'll be back.
Are you playing on my card? You said no?
I have a poem I wrote about this. I'm going to share it. I don't know how to do this though. So how do I share it? But
yeah, I'm not a technology person. So.
Yeah, I couldn't get to it. Anyway, I'm sorry. Who wanted to share?
Okay, I have a poem I have on a poem I wrote called Pyramid Man. Okay. I was going to share it.
Okay.
But I don't know how to do it.
Why'd you take my hair
out? Anyway, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I have a question about the pyramids while you're trying to see how to share your poem.
Yeah, go.
I,
Yeah.
I was under the impression that if the pyramid is metal, because it's a conductor, the energy that should be funneling through the shape will be drawn to the edges and kind of pulled out of the cone of the conical vortex of energy. And therefore, the reason the Russians who built all of those pyramids all across wherever in Russia that they were, building these, I don't know how tall, 144 meters, maybe, I don't know. There was no metal in them at all. They were all wood and, had, I forget what they had on the surface of them, but there was no metal at all because they found that the metal would draw the energies away from the pure conical vortex that they were trying to create.
I find it interesting about all these pyramids that are just all around the world. There's hundreds of them in China that are underneath. They look like hills, but they're actually pyramids. They just found a new one in a Mayan pyramid that they're starting to excavate down in Mexico. It makes you wonder, how long ago
And how
all
many
these
more
pyramids
are there?
were active and communicating with each other.
They're saying those ruins they're finding in Africa they're dating to 200,000 years ago. They look like entire cities in Africa that have been buried. So there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know as humanity. Stuff that was lost historically speaking.
There's an article on In5D. It's on out of place artifacts. UPARTS is the acronym for them. Out of place artifacts. So there's this one artifact that they found in Illinois. It was a coin. What they were doing, they were drilling into the ground, and they were, I don't know, maybe 100 and some odd feet down into the ground, and they pull the drill back out, and there's a coin that was never seen to humanity beforehand. That's unknown to humanity.
I've seen that
so
somewhere.
you got to think, okay, 150 feet down into the earth. How many times have we been here and done this? How many times has the great flood came in, washed everything away? A couple 100,000 years later, here's Adam and Eve again and another Jesus.
Well, there's a lot of things that have been distorted over the years. All right. This Urantia book puts a clear arrow through all of them and brings into a sense of a story that makes sense. I'm telling you, it really does. And I'm not just saying that willy-nilly. I've read this book in detail and absorbed it. And it has a lot of very interesting things that take these Bible stories we've heard that have been distorted and screwy, but it puts them in a manner that makes fucking sense. And it actually puts the Bible in a perspective then that you can stretch it out and say, I can see how they came to that thinking when you expand the thinking of the overall picture of what's actually happening here. But it explains a path for humanity, life on this planet that has been organized and not dictated, but watched from on high from day one. We are not, what it says is we are not an accident. We are a planet that they knew life was going to form on and planned it ahead of time and have been helping us in their own way since the beginning. It says there are no coincidences in this universe that we are in, that we see ourselves in.
On YouTube, there's a guy called the Johnnyverse, and he's saying the pyramids seem like some sort of quantum energy stations that act as light ship navigation beacons and have other functionalities that include reading Earth's chakras and higher energy level metrics. That's interesting.
That's why they were placed where they were placed too, because they're on the perfect place for them to read those things on the Earth. Wherever they are, they're in a perfect place around the world. Each and every one of them. They're not put willy-nilly. They're in perfect positions to harvest the energy of the Earth as the magnetic resonance does what it does.
this guy, the Johnny verse, says that he's a West Point systems engineer and ex-military pilot. So there you go. Credibility. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well,
I just wish they would keep this shit secret. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
sorry. Is it Julia that was talking about like why metals are put into some of the pyramids? Well, I put metals into pyramids because it's a different type of conductor. There's different type of conducting systems that help enhance the copper or the crystal when you're creating the orgone. With the points, when you're talking about the pyramids, let's say like this pyramid that's right here in my hand, it does have points and all 4 points and plus a 5th one on top. So the energy does come out from each point. So at each direction, it's forcing the energy to come out in different points. So you're thinking of 4 directions, like the north, south, east, and west. So it's actually soaking in all those energies from those points and pushing out the energy through the top. But when I use copper, it's more of a natural conductor with the crystal, and I guess it's more like a test to see like how much energy that can be forced out or that it can emit at the same time. But for, let's say, the orgone product I have right here that I created, I put black tourmaline, steel, there's wool, copper, and copper poles with super 7s on the tops of points and a clear crystal point in the center. So these help with EMF frequencies, and different types of other things, but your health and some sort, but different metals conduct in a different type of way. So when the scientists are trying to use more of a natural way, like wood is more like a softener when it comes to conducting. The wood is soaking up the negative energy, but the metals are actually transmitting it into a different higher frequency. So there's a different variation in different types of communication lines and with different beings. And different frequency waves with that.
I was
It
thinking,
just depends on the intent.
That's absolutely fascinating.
well, I was thinking more along the lines of the meditation pyramids, not the orgone. I mean, the orgone, I can understand the use of the metals within them. That makes sense. But with regard to the ones that you showed that was just built out of copper tubes.
Yeah, just the metal one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I had been looking at building one for meditation and done all this research and of course come across the ones, as I mentioned, the Russian ones, because they were relying on the energy itself. The shape is more harnessing and focusing the energy. But yeah, so I totally get when you're creating the orgone pyramids. I was trying to pull mine out and I realized I don't have my video on anyway, but that's okay. Yeah, so that makes sense. I was just referring to the ones that you sit under.
Yeah, like if you're sitting under it, kind of like when what's his name, William Wright was conducting the box, and he actually had the wood and the insulation was like wool and different types of metal that was conducted with it, and there was copper. So it just depends on the frequency of, I guess, yourself and what the copper is itself, because when the copper pyramid itself, like the metal itself, is sitting on earth, like in the grass, it actually has a higher frequency. It actually pulls the energy from the earth, from the wherever the ley line is at that time, and it actually helps like vibrate to a higher frequency, so it helps like circulate that energy around you even more, and it pulls all 4 corners around you and helps align you even more. So I guess it comes from a different perspective from each person too, because everybody heals a different way. So, and if you are interested in creating one, I would totally suggest in you creating one. If you start off with wood, and then, because wood is a really good conductor with the softening, and then you can put poles on the outside of it. Oh, okay. And then you can put the poles on the outside or on the inside to help conduct that energy into a softer one. So it's not such a hard energy to heal. So it just depends on perspective and in like how you need to heal at that time too. Because with William Rye, like with his box, it was steel, different types of metal, and there was wood also. So wood is like a big soft conductor. It just depends on what type of metals you use and where you're at that time too. So each place on the earth is a different conducting system. Let's say if you have wood in one area, like the north winds, the south winds, east winds, and west winds, every single one has a different conducting system, which is connected to a different ley line or a different way of vibration with each other. So, and that's why certain places have certain types of pyramids, and then certain other places have different ones. Like let's say the Pyramid of Giza, they're a total different one. We don't really know what's like in them because we haven't really gone into them personally.
They've gotten close to figuring out what's in most of them with this computer technology. They've gone through most of it now, and they're able to see, and that's how they were able to see how these things are perfectly designed to be these energy centers. Because in the center, it's perfectly situated and made. The pyramids were made to be exactly what they were. They're perfectly made to transmit this energy and to harness it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it shows the inner tubes and what they do and how the energy, it showed how the whole thing worked and how it transmitted from the earth to light up the world. And it was incredible, so, and I'm a full believer in the power of the pyramids, and I really am.
And each pyramid is placed in a different part of the earth or in different parts of anywhere because it's a different awakening at each time for the chakras of the earth and helps awaken her to her own sense of being. Like people who are in certain places and certain beings that are connected to the earth somehow. Like
that's an interesting concept. That's an interesting thought I hadn't had, because I hadn't thought of putting on where the earth needs it. That's a good thought. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. Interesting.
In YouTube, for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
In YouTube, T-Light is asking a question that ties in with all this. And she's asking, is there a major energy portal inside the Vatican?
Do you like purple?
I would think that, and maybe you have some insight on this, Desiree, but I would think that the obelisk would perform similar to what a pyramid would do, and that
here's a thought
Vatican's located on specific ley lines that help charge that obelisk.
Here's a thought that might play into it, and this is really kind of unrelated, but there's a guy that Carlman, the guy he interpreted the Mayan calendar, and he put the Mayan calendar across history and was able to show the shifts in left and right, but it also showed ley lines of where the tree of life flows. And Rome was a center point for one of these ley lines. It was a center point for the world to focus on. So for some reason, there is some powerful energy active in that area. Now, whether they don't have pyramids there that I'm aware of, but there is some, according to that gentleman and his interpretation of the Mayan calendar, and it also was pretty brilliant how it laid out and looked. So it made sense. And Rome was very powerful center point. So that could very well be why the Vatican is there, So interesting question, I don't know, but I don't know a definitive answer, but that kind of leads into possibly yes,
I'm sure that, just about every major institution, religious institution from the Roman Catholic Church is built on a specific ley line to harness and gather certain energies. And that's why they even have different colored stained glass within their church, because of the reverberation and the echoes. The different colored stained glass creates different frequencies within that church as well.
How the hell did they know that? How did they know that?
They were given that information.
And why did they not share that information? Why is it such a big freaking secret?
Because it's
You
all
know?
about subservience, control, and conformity. It's all
Control,
about
I know, and it's like, and that's horrible. That's evil.
it is.
That's insipid. You know, God.
It's how the world is being ran right now. Until
Yeah, and
beings like us
forever, and
step
forever,
in
right?
and take over.
Yeah, and forever. Yeah. Comes the time of peace on this planet, but I don't know that we're going to see it in these life forms. You know.
I think so. I think we will. Definitely. Those that are in control are panicking right now. I mean, they're making it seem like, you know, we are the, you know, the paupers of the earth, which we are, basically. We are the meek. But what we're heading to, and what they already know, and there's nothing they can do about it, is we are the galactic royalty of the universe because of our DNA. They don't have it because they are the 13 lines that kept that DNA within themselves through inbreeding and everything. It's been corrupted and broken, you know. So the elite are actually the antithesis of what they actually pretend to be.
Absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly. That whole inbreeding thing, yeah. There is one Bible axiom that I think fits what you just said: the meek shall inherit the earth. You know, and I think that's a truism. I really do. We shall inherit this earth. Just a matter of when, you know, but it's going to happen. It's inevitable, and we're leading towards it. But good God Almighty, these people are fucking batshit crazy. They are.
So what you got there, Desiree?
So I'm an artist, and I go along, like, I've had messages ever since I was 11 years old, 12 years old, about my dreams and bombs and weird things going off. And I paint for a living, and this is what I do. When he was talking about the tree of life and stuff, well, Metatron is my guide, and he's taught me so much and given me inspiration to be who I am today, awaken and be sober and clean. So when I had a dream, I don't know if you can see that.
Beautiful.
It's a tree
Beautiful.
of life,
Beautiful.
but it's about the earth, like tree on the earth, and there's light language here, and it has to correlate with the pyramids.
Lean it forward
But-
just a little.
That's beautiful, though.
Lean
Seriously,
it forward just a little, if you could. A little bit more. There you go. Yeah, that's yeah.
I can't. How good
That's
is that?
an oil painting.
No, it's acrylic.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
But when talking about, like, you know, trees, it's an oak tree, and it feels, you know, like trees are surrounding our earth at this moment, and it feels like we're being hugged at this moment. And there's lots of angels that are coming from different galaxies. A lot of people say they're beings, but to me, I say angels because I see people with big wings covering, you know, come save us for some reason. I don't know.
How come they have wings? How come they have wings anyway? Why can't they just fly without them?
I don't know. But
I don't know.
it's a you know, kind of dream state that we all sometimes have. Hey.
So I'm gonna right now unmute everybody in the chat room. If you want to join in, you're more than welcome to. Your mics are now open. If there's anyone that wants to just pop in and say hi real quick, you can do so. Now's your chance.
Hello.
Hi,
So-
Sam.
Hi. How's everyone?
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Where are you from?
Connecticut.
Okay. And how long have you been awakened?
It was slowly started beginning in 2008,
Mhm.
but the end of my school year, 2015, that's when I had the Kundalini awakening, what they call that.
Okay.
I didn't know it at the time, but I started feeling bliss and happy all that. I went to school and people think I was weirdo on drugs or something because I was
So
smiling and laughing.
You're relatively young, aren't you then?
No, not 15 years. Wait, 2013. The end of my school year, 2015 on March. That's when everything was.
How old are you?
Really. I'm 50 right now.
That's great. Do you have how do your friends react when you try to talk to them about what you've been going through? Like, or do you even talk to them about that?
It it's funny. Actually, none of my friends understand. It's like the whole world is upside down, and only I have one best friend. I try to tell him about it, but he really don't get it, and I feel like I don't know how to explain it, but I'm trying to convince him over and over, and then he's just make a joke out of it. But
So is
it
it
was
kind of lonely being on the awakening path? Where are you located right now?
Very lonely.
Connecticut, East Haven. I went there in Oregon when I went to school. Then when I really have my awakening in Portland, Oregon, when I went to massage school there, and then I just came back to Connecticut a year ago.
So did you say 15 or 50?
2012, when I moved to Oregon, I went to school over there, a massage school. And then 2017, 18, when I moved back to Connecticut.
Yeah. And are you 15 years old or 50 years old? 15 or 50?
My legal age is 50. I'm
Okay,
born
gotcha. Okay,
1969.
that makes sense. Okay. All right. So, you know, I've heard there, I have a friend of mine who went to have she had a massage therapist come and did something happened to her when this massage was going on that opened up something, and she had this awakening moment through a massage. You know, it's just a regular massage through a massage therapist. So it's amazing what you can do with your hands.
Have you heard of Byron Katie?
No.
She's another lady I interviewed for the magazine I work for, and she just woke up one morning and poof, had an awakening. That was it.
You know, it's funny.
Like that.
I don't know how this energy working, but I was talking to somebody so-called twin flame, whatever, over the phone. Then I noticed an activation happened to her, but she lives in overseas. And I was trying to tell her to meditate and all that, but she doesn't get it. I sent her a bunch of links and videos.
I'll tell you something, man. It's very lonely. It can be very lonely once you've awakened. And the urge to share it is strong. But I'm going to give some advice that I learned the hard way. Don't force it on anyone. You know, you can talk about it and be yourself, but don't force it on them. They'll come to you and ask you why, then share with them why, and then leave it at that. And I'm just saying, do it subtly. Let them ask you why you're so happier now than you were a week ago or whenever it was, you know, as an example. And I learned that the hard way. I tried to force it on friends and it backfired. They got mad and we got in fights. And it dawned on me that I was going about it wrong. I have to let it be. They have to come to these things slowly. It's like they have layers of it, like an onion. They have to be peeled.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're not looking for it, then you can slowly help them peel layers without them even realizing you're helping them. But you'll see the difference. Sorry.
I'm so grateful at the time of awakening, because on Facebook, everything was gone wild. And then I was guided to a certain group, spiritual group in Facebook. And then I found a guy, I forgot his name, but he wrote a book called Spiritual of Higher Consciousness Thinking. And he was guiding me just meditate and all that. And I was like, he said, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up, something like that.
Exactly. That's exactly true. Exactly true.
I think a lot of us have gone through that meditation process, you know, all throughout our lives. And what we find, many of us, you know, you experiment with one form of meditation and another form. And what you find is you end up, at least myself, I create something that suits me based on all the meditations I've tried.
You have to be your own guru.
Yeah.
You do.
And it's the weird part is that I was to look on YouTube, and then I found a book on YouTube that was wrote by Dolores Cannon.
Oh
And
yeah.
then somebody mentioned to me the 3-Wave books, and then I was like hooked onto that. When I read to that book, it just opened more to, you know,
I love Dolores
understanding.
Cannon.
Yes.
I interviewed her on In5D radio years ago before she passed, and just a lovely, wonderful, warm woman. Yeah, how can you not
Yes.
love Dolores?
Exactly. Yeah, I never actually got to meet her, but my boss knew her well, and I've heard a lot about her. Yeah, how can you not? Her message was one of light, you know,
Yeah,
light
I
and
learned a
love.
lot through that books.
Yeah,
And I
well,
think a lot
good,
of people
man.
can relate to that message of the volunteers. You know, you heard the call, you came here, and you know, we have people that visit In5D that are, you know, in their 70s and 80s down to all the way down to their teens and everybody in between. So, you know, and each one of us are in different waves that heard the call. Here we are, you know, we're doing what we have to do, you know, and it related to like the chat we had yesterday. Remind me again, why did I incarnate into the shithole? Well, that's one of the reasons.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Because here you are, and it feels like molasses, and things are going
Well-
bad. You forgot that you'd have the dark nights of the soul. Nights, I said plural. Yeah, plural. It happens more than once.
if I may share a personal moment for a moment, I really have been struggling the last 2 months since before Christmas with a form of depression, which is really not usual for me. But I'm lonely. I need something to do, and finding this site tonight, talking to you guys, has really uplifted me. Right? It really has. It's like now I have a place I can come and talk about stuff that actually matters to me, as opposed to
Ditto.
the stuff that everyone else is talking about that I really don't care about. You know. You know,
Hey Greg,
football.
the Dark Knight of the Soul should be named the Dark Shit of a Hole.
Yeah.
It sucks, and you know we all go through it. I'll tell you, this past year has been horrible.
It's been tough for me too, man. It's been tough for me.
Relationship.
It's really painful.
Relationship.
Been heavy.
Broke up with a woman. Had my dog died. Had a heart attack. You know, it's been a rough year. So you know, I'm putting it out there. You know, just because you know I own and run In5D, and I do meditate and do a lot of the right things. Things come down on me as well. So I'm feeling the empathic stress like everybody else. So, and we're all going to get through this. That's the outlying message. Yeah, we'll get through this wonderfully. And this is going to be a magical year. This is the year we've all been waiting for.
You know, you mentioned about the year, this is the year we start meeting starseed. And, you know, it's really ring a bell, because when I see the synchronicity number and I notice that I've been meeting through starseed, you know, I didn't even know it until this year. Then I just realized, because I read the energy signal, and I just know that that's a starseed.
Well, think about that, you know, in alchemy, as above, so below, as within, so without. You know, if there are, here we are on this planet, you know, myself, I'm part Russian, Polish, Spanish, and Italian. What if each one of those were 4 different star nations, and each one was speaking their own star language, you know, here on this earth? If that is true, then we are truly the galactic royalty of the multiverse.
Well, again, I'm going to go back.
Bringing together all these different star nations, the DNA within us, and sharing it amongst everyone else that's here. We are the royalty of the multiverse.
Again, Greg, I'm going to interject here a second and go back to the Urantia book, because the Urantia book talks about different races, and it talks about our planet is the home of every race that exists in the universe. And we are exactly what you just said, a conglomerate of every And there are different races. There's red, there's yellow, there's white, there's blue, I forget, there's black. And I don't think it relates to color, but it actually kind of does, the way they explained it on the planet. But we, according to that book, we are a conglomerate of everything in the universe in one planet. And we have had so much happen on this planet that very few planets have ever had happen to them. And our planet is an experimental planet. And it's quite fascinating to interlay what they say with the history as we can look back and see it. And it fits. It fits like a freaking glove. It fits like a glove. You know, so we're all part of some universal plan. And there's no refuting that. There is no refuting that. You know?
I think
agree with
Earth
that.
is
You know,
the
what I was talking about the other day, we had a Zoom chat here a few days ago about starseeds and our human origins, where, you know, we have the story of our, you know, through the Bible, Adam and Eve. You know, that's one possibility. Zechariah Sitchin, and the, you know, through the cuneiform, you know, being genetically modified through the Anunnaki 3 times, and eventually coming up with the Adama race, which was the impetus for Adam and Eve. And then the final possibility, which would be that we were seeded here from various galactic star nations. And when you look at those possibilities, it's probably a combination of all 3 that led us to where we are right now.
Well, what they say is they chemically enhance the planet so that these races evolved naturally. It's all because of the chemical processes that were put in place by the people that do these things with planets in the universes. So they do certain chemical reactions that guarantee life forms and evolves. And then they
See, the part that
follow
I'm
it from
still
there.
having a hard time understanding is why we only have 20 some odd codons in our DNA out of 64 codons activated. Now, if they had did that with the Anunnaki, if the Adama race and the Anunnaki were the ones that limited the codons in our DNA, then how would it be possible that star nations came here and seeded the planet, unless the only way they could do that was to already come into the Adama bodies that were here, to incarnate into the bodies that we currently have? That would make sense as well.
Well, okay, here's an understanding that I have, okay, that they put the chemical reactions in place so life formed on this planet, evolved. And it told the story of the first life forms that they followed that had consciousness, that split apart from their family. It was a twin sisters of a lemur race in India, I believe they said, that split apart because they were so far advanced. And then from them, humanity evolved. And what they say is once humanity evolves, once that race gets to a point where they make a conscious decision, like those 2 did, they are immediately interspersed with the Spirit of God. From that point on, they have the Holy Spirit inside of them to help guide them the rest of the way. And from that point on, everything on this planet has evolved. And then Adam and Eve came here to uplift us. We had gotten to and they come to uplift us genetically. And they had a plan to follow through, but according to this book, our Adam and Eve defaulted. They tried to speed the plan up on their own devices and screwed it up, which set us back. But genetically, we are still interspersed with those Adam and Eve people. They were supposed to wait for a certain point of time and then join with us and mix their DNA with ours. And their DNA has been mixed with ours, but it has been soured by the taint of the default. So therefore, our spiritual growth has been set back a millennia, and we're still in the dark ages, and we're in the midst of the darkest part of the universe, but it's all still going according to plan, and including what they said the plan with Jesus, why he came to this planet to have his final life. They said this is his 8th life that he has come and lived on the planet. 8th and final one, to ensure his control of the universe. And he did it to perfection, and therefore opened up the way for all of us to join with him. And that's how he opened up the way, by living this life here. And that is why they say he is a light in the way. And since that point, the way has been open to anyone. Now everyone is open to join the way and join with oneness and unity in the universe, if that makes sense. But from my understanding of this book, it lays out an entire plan of how this all works out, including Adam and Eve, including Jesus, including the biblical stories we've been told, and the floods and Noah, all of it, in a manner that makes more sense than what we've been told our whole lives. And I hope I didn't screw that up. And I'm done now.
Are any of you familiar with Edgar Casey's story about Adam?
I haven't heard that particular story, but I'm familiar with Edgar Casey a lot. Yeah.
Same.
I don't remember. I might have heard it.
Well, it was in all of
Break a
his
lot.
work about Atlantis. And I'm going to see if I can remember, but he was talking about, and I have questions about some of this too, but I won't even mention those right now, but the 15 or 12, or I don't know, a small number of celestial beings that came to Earth in the early days of Atlantis. Among them was Emilius. Have any of you heard that name?
No.
I haven't.
No.
Okay,
Not Emilius.
so Emilius, so Emilius, I'll just tell this story because I've just spent a lot of time with Edgar Casey's material because I'm related to that lineage. So Emilius was overseeing the celestial beings, but of course there were, earth evolved, organically evolved beings that were already here. But I'm going to try and remember this as well as I can. That celestial beings were intrigued by the mechanics of being physical, which included sex. And so some of them had the desire to experience that and started manifesting themselves in ways such that they could interact with the Earth humans. And so after a while, Emilius was like, I'm losing control. These folks are not living the way, according to the law of one, that they, they're descending. And so the only way that he felt that he could influence or participate with those that had dropped in density was to incarnate himself. So he incarnated as a being called a Safa. Now I can't remember exactly how Adam came about, but in this story, Adam was a manifestation or incarnation of a Safa, and therefore of Emilius. And he goes on to say that the lineage of Emilius and a Safa and Adam was the same as Enoch, Jesus, and a handful of other beings. And a lot of these stories were interlaced with stories of Edgar's own incarnations. So, of course, I've heard all of these different versions of this story of the descent into third density. But, there's that story of Adam. There's the one that you had told. And then there's, of course, the story of the Anunnaki creating the Adam or the Adama race. Is that what you were? I had forgotten the Adama race that you had mentioned, Greg. Is that where the genesis of that is, from the Anunnaki, right?
Yes.
Right. So it's so interesting to hear all these different versions because they're just different perspectives, I would assume.
Of the same thing, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, they're different perspectives. Right.
Right. So I brought that up. I'm trying to remember now why I brought it up. I brought it up because you were talking about, I know what it was. we were
Codon.
talking about Adam and Eve
Yeah.
messing up. Basically, they had a directive, so to speak, and they messed it up. But
Right, but it wasn't malevolent. They didn't do it out of sin, like the churches tell us. It was out of a mistake. It was a pure mistake, but honest mistake. So
right. Well,
put
I
it,
think
you know,
I think the reason I thought of this story that I just told was because my reaction to hearing that story was that I thought, well, wow, that gives that pair a lot more power than
it certainly does.
I would think that they would have really had.
But it gives them the power they did have. But they did have. That was their role here, according to what this book said. And again, I talk like I'm defending it, but I'm not, because I really don't know if I believe any of it. But it's opened my mind to the possibility, and it makes more sense than anything else. There's too many stories of Adam and Eve to not have something to it that has truth involved.
Oh yeah. Well,
You know,
let me ask you
there's-
this.
there's
I was curious. Have you read also the Law of One material?
I have not. No, I have not read that one.
Partially.
Yeah, I had gone into a bookstore once, and I had been thinking about getting the Urantia book. And honestly,
You can find that online.
Well, I was in Atlanta, and they have a big metaphysical store, and I just wanted to buy something, you know. So I went in there, and I was like, "This thing is huge. The print is really small." You know? And I was just like, I know myself, you know, I'm just someone who will be reading 6 books at once. I mean, there are very few books that I'll read cover to cover in, you know, before picking up something else.
I just put on audio mode.
It's a very strange book, because I had the same thing. I worked at a New Age magazine, and I got a lot of these books, and I got a copy of the Urantia book for free. And I kept it on my shelf for over 10 years. And I did read parts of it in the beginning because I had them underlined, and I know that. But then about 4 or 5 years ago, I read the whole thing in a month, and I don't know what inspired me, but I picked it up and read the entire thing. And it really, I seemed to be ready for it after it sat on my shelf for 10 plus years, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a tough book.
Remind
me
me
of
the
the
source of it.
It's a tough book to read. It is. It's mental, man. It'll mess with your mind.
Oh no, well I'm into the mental stuff. I mean, I have a degree in philosophy, and I have been absorbed in the heady stuff since I was young. In fact, I've been told I was Annie Besant in a past life. So, you know, that would make sense. But
have you guys heard of? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, so I don't know if you heard me say, I was just asking Doug to remind me what the source of the Urantia book is.
The source has never been stated. It's all inside the book itself. Each part that's written, the person channeling it tells who they are. All right, but the Urantia book itself has never said who it was that channeled the book. There has been speculation that it was Edgar Cayce, because it was at the same time period.
I know it wasn't him.
The book was published in 1937, but they have not released who actually channeled all the information. It has never been given, as far as I know. So I don't know who actually wrote it down.
Well, I mean, I was asking not who wrote it down, but who delivered it.
Well, you'd have to look up the Urantia book and who published it. It was published by the Urantia Society, you know.
Oh, no. I mean, like, we know with the Law of One, it was a collective that called themselves the Ra group. So that's why I was wondering.
They didn't call themselves anything. There's a bunch of different entities mentioned in the book.
Oh, I gotcha.
That each entity supplies their own little portion.
I see.
And then at the end of it, they say who they are. So throughout the entire book, they'll tell who's actually reporting this particular aspect of the book.
I thought it was wrote by the blue being, the avian blue being, staged by David Wilcox stated that.
You're referring to Sam. You're referring to the Law of One.
Yes.
the blue avians are part of the raw group.
Yes, that's
yes,
what I
but
hear.
right, but the raw group actually technically has more beings in it than just that group. So the blue avians are part of it, and so yeah. But you're right. Yeah, when asked, I know what you're referring to. I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So apparently those blue avians said yes, they were the same group that had delivered the Law of One.
So on Urantia, here's what it says on that. It was published by William Sadler. The book is said to have resulted from Sadler's relationship with a man through whom he believed celestial beings spoke at night.
So that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if there was any particular group of beings that had identified himself, but I guess
Well, celestial beings is kind of vague. It could be,
General.
Andromeda, Arcturus, Orion.
Yeah, it could be anything. And I
Yeah.
guess as Doug said, it was indeed multiples.
Have you guys heard the work of Daniel Sear? He's in the research for 50 years, including his psychologist works and UFO research. He wrote 3 books, and he have a YouTube channel called The Path to Ascension.
I'm sure we probably have seen, maybe a video of his throughout the years or read something of his throughout the years, but I'm not recalling the name specifically.
But it's pretty interesting. I wrote his first and second book. The third book, I think somebody blocked me. They don't want me to read it. I purchased on Kindle and then they took it out. Somebody, Illuminati, could be. Didn't want me to know. He wrote
Kathy
3
Ashby
books,
is saying on YouTube.
I was so curious to learn.
In the chat room on YouTube, Kathy Ashby is saying that she's been listening to the Law of One audiobook on YouTube. So if people haven't read the Law of One yet, and you wanted to, and I bet you could probably find an audiobook on YouTube for the Urantia book as well.
I downloaded the Law of
everything
One
online.
on audio.
It's amazing how this conversation is just so organic, and we've covered so many topics throughout the evening.
It is, man, yeah. From pyramids to Urantia to Adam and Eve to.
This is what it's about, though. This is what Soul Family does.
But they're all connected too.
Things that interest us.
But each thing we talked about, and each thing we've talked about has been connected. It's not like it's been gone off on a tandem. They've been connected. They've related to what we were all talking about. So that's what makes it cool.
When someone says that they feel isolated, Sam, now you know who your star family really
now
is.
You know who to go to. Exactly. I swear, man.
And I feel warm and fuzzy.
It's like you're really smart when it comes to this. It feels like you're really smart.
It can be lonely.
You're very intelligent.
It can be lonely. It can be lonely having to talk to.
Oh yeah, I was like, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
I don't want to be here anymore.
But
I think that's what we were talking about the other night with Greg. Yeah.
Yeah, none of us are alone in our thoughts and our feelings, even though, we might live in towns where, there aren't a lot of aware and awakened people. But, we're going to have this platform quite often where we can all get together. And I encourage, people to come here on Zoom. If you're watching on YouTube, join us here on Zoom. Pop in, say hello, make your voice heard. As I've mentioned throughout the night, tomorrow night, we're going to be having a show, what led to your spiritual awakening. And it's going to be really interesting to hear everyone's story, because everyone's got so many, not just one, but so many amazing stories to tell. And this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to create Soul Family, and to, if you have a website or a YouTube channel, that you want to put out there, feel free to do so. Matter of fact, I have an article that I just put out a couple of days ago. If you have a YouTube channel and you want me to mirror your videos, if you do like energy updates or, angel message readings or stuff, whatever. If you want me to mirror your videos on my channel, I can do that for you. And I'll put a link to your YouTube channel in the more info section, and I'll send my traffic there to yours. But it's my way of helping you guys out. So what do we have here on the screen?
You do that. I can't read that. That's too small for my eyes, man.
I can't see either.
Redundant, arching around lyrics. I can't read it, man.
It's me. It's mine.
It's too
Can you hear
small for
me?
me.
Oh,
Otherwise,
Can you hear me?
yeah.
I'm Naomi, Indigo Moon on the other on YouTube.
Hi, Naomi.
How-
Thanks for joining
Hi,
us.
how are y'all? Actually, I
Hello.
just shared one of my poems that actually I wrote in July of 2014, and I didn't realize it was the beginning of my awakening, but it really was. And I would like to read this for you guys if you would allow me to. There,
Sure.
I call it Arcan Realms, and it really relates to a lot of things that are tied to the awakening. And I didn't even know what an awakening was when I wrote it. So here we go. Benevolence, where it all starts. It's goodwill I see. Charity, respect for all walks of life. Kindness lives there. Look into a pair. Eyes, windows to the soul. A need to feel in this life we were whole. Just be and breathe, there is light. The sun I see. The earth and the moon, they bleed for me. Out there, alternative life. A presence here with us now. A presence, there's no need to bow. In every lost stare, behind the music, behind the melody, feel the connection. It's truly resurrection. Only a cocoon am I, soon to be your butterfly. Full of innocence, pray for grace. There's room in this universe for more than the human race. Not stepping on toes, I find my pace. Feeling humble, wings intact, set free on the other side. With you is where I ride, that's where I'll be. Made the connection, like a medium I see. We're all part of everything concerned. All we've touched, life lessons learned. A place that was earned, overlooking a beautiful sea. Miss you so much, our sea of eternity.
What inspired you to write that?
Wow.
It was just, I don't know how to explain it. I was going through a time where I was just feeling that there was something more coming. And I've known for many, many years that there was something more coming for us all. This actually would connect back to a poem that I wrote in 1984. And when I was 14 years old. and this it's almost like a continuance of it. So this was like my realization of what I've always felt and what I've known was coming. It was just, it poured out of me. And the other lady, I'm not sure which one it was. I'm Arcturian too. Whichever person that was, if you're still out there, we're family.
Julia, that was Julia.
We're all family, but
Hi, nice to meet
hi.
you.
I'm connected to Greg 50-50.
Yeah. So the poem that I just wrote you and I shared the image of, it's called I call it Arcan Realms, and it's available with a lot of other material that I've written on my Deep Underground Poetry page, and I'm called Flame of Fire on there.
So not just here, but on YouTube, they're
must-
digging it as well. A lot of people are commenting on your poem.
Oh, did it show up?
You must be
Well, they all heard
they
it.
heard me. They
Yeah,
heard me.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, I didn't realize that was still
you
running.
must be really
I joined on my phone, and I've got a tablet like sitting here too. So
I just zoom it in.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We've got a lot of people that are joining us on both YouTube and here on Zoom. So do you know how to click out of the screen, the share screen? It's up on top.
no, nope. Let me see. Is it like freezing up the screen now? How do I get out of it?
Oh,
disconnect?
Well, it's at the top of the screen. I can only tell you on a laptop, but at the top of the screen, there's an option to leave the screen share.
Let me, I'll figure it out. If I have to exit out and then rejoin, I will.
Yeah.
Stop. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Stop
there
share.
you go. You got
There
it.
we go.
Okay. Yay. We didn't lose you either. I'm going to unmute once again everybody that's here, just in case there's somebody that's new that wants to join in and talk with us and say hello. And
Can you guys hear me at all?
yeah, hi Tracy.
Hi.
Hello.
I finally
Well,
figured it out.
Yay, welcome to the chat.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I was kind of concerned. I was trying to get it figured out as I'm driving down the road. And then all of a sudden, I look up and there's red and blue lights in my rearview mirror.
Oh,
And
no.
I thought, oh my gosh, the cop saw me on my cell phone because it's dark. So my car's kind of lit up. And then, so I got off an exit ramp. And then as I got back on, there was an accident. And then I looked down at my clock and
No, you're breaking up a little, Trace.
Oh, okay. I'm kind of coming into a different area. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to tell Julia that I just recently purchased a Russian Stargate pyramid, and she was talking about she was interested in getting one.
I'm going to build one, actually. Oh, we lost her again.
I see her name up there. But you can answer her inquisition anyway, because she'll hear it.
Yeah, my cousin is a master carpenter.
Metal.
Anyway, I bought a book. He's gonna
And like
he's gonna build
today,
one for me.
they did a
Okay,
We've
who's
lost
talking?
you, Tracy.
Sorry, I know I'm getting close to water. If I lose you, I'll just try you back when I get home. But anyway, they test different things within the pyramid. And today, since we were talking about metal, I'm not sure what they use. I know they douse, but they have some kind of other type of energy reader. And since I'm so new to it, I'm not really sure exactly what they're using, but they did a test today where one of them had their laptop. They measured the energy without the laptop in the pyramid, and then they did it with, and the energy actually dropped pretty significantly because of the metal. So that's one thing I have learned with this type of pyramid is that you should try not to take any metal into the pyramid because it will decrease the energy. But I'm telling you what, I couldn't even stay in it very long the first time I used it. The energy is so intense. And like the higher up you are in the pyramid, mine's 7.5 feet tall. So when I stand in it, it's really intense. Like I haven't even done a full meditation because I feel like I want to learn more about it. I guess it's kind of like untraveled territory for me. But when I was in it, it was amazing. I mean, it's like someone threw a blanket over you. It's that heavy of an energy. So right now I have crystals in it. I've got some water in it that's supposed to be in there for like 2 or 3 days before you consume it. So I'm just testing out different things and kind of journaling, how I feel. But apparently just having it in your house, it has a radiance of the energy that will pretty much, it'll travel through your entire house, possibly your neighborhood, depending on the size. So I think my house is pretty energetic right now because I have like a tensor generator and I do a lot with tensor rings. So there should be no EMF measuring in my house whatsoever. And I would like to do something. I've already talked to Greg about this a little bit, but I would like to do something. I'm going to try to take the time to put something together just to talk about my experience with some of these tools and just how amazing it is to be in this energy field. It's a great transmuter of energy, of negative energy. So like people will come to my house and they just don't want to leave, you know, they're just kind of taken in by how great it feels. And it's just very positive and they just feel good when they're there. And I'm somebody that I always have fresh cut flowers. That's kind of my little treat to myself. And I just feel good when I'm around flowers. So when I got the pyramid, my daughter's boyfriend had gotten me roses for, I think it was Thanksgiving.
Uh-oh. You there?
I'm just going
To
to
be
show you real
continued.
quick.
Yes.
So they bloomed completely, like for weeks. I just kept taking pictures of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, like after a month, they looked prettier than they did after a week. They just kept getting more and more beautiful. I mean, it was just incredible how this energy changed the entire atmosphere. So I just wanted to share that because I just think that's something I'm really intrigued by, and I want to learn more about it. So I'm kind of in that process of really diving into.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I have heard,
I
you know,
teach
some
teas
people,
over here.
Well, you kind of bounced out on us, Trace.
Can you still hear me?
We can now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I might see if I can pull over somewhere. But yeah, I'm just trying to kind of add a few things to my practice so that when I really go fully into this, I want to incorporate some of these really awesome things for anybody that I can help. You know, if they come to me for a session, I'm kind of dabbling in sound healing a little bit and with the tensor rings and now the pyramid. So just wondering if anybody else has anything to add to that, or maybe they can teach me some things about any of that stuff.
This is a picture. I don't know if you can see it on your phone, but I have a picture of my German Shepherd. He would lay underneath that pyramid for no particular reason. Dogs know. As a matter of fact, there's a picture on the internet
Yes.
of a deer. There's a copper pyramid outside similar to the one I have where a deer is laying underneath it. Animals know about the energy that's underneath. There's a calming energy that my German Shepherd would feel, and he would just, for no reason whatsoever,
because
lay underneath the pyramid. So, you know, I love the pyramid. I've meditated under there. I've had, well, I'm not going to go there. I've done other things under there too, but it's amazing. It's fun. I highly recommend a copper pyramid. I think, everybody should have one. Where I live right now, I really don't have the room to set it up, but on occasion I will bring this pyramid out to the beach for our In5D beach meetups.
well, and they do
Awesome.
make those ones that are collapsible. So they have rope at the bottom.
Oh, that's
So you
great.
just
I
pull
love
them up
that.
like a teepee. Yeah, and you can take them with you.
Yeah, mine you can take it apart pretty easy. The first day I set it up, my dog was on my bed sleeping, and as soon as I got into the pyramid, I have a picture of him too. He came and sat in the pyramid and started looking up, and I was just like, oh my gosh, something's happening with him too.
They know.
Yeah, because usually he rolls his eyes at me like, oh, what's she doing now? You know, what'd she bring home now? So that was pretty amazing. And it's in my bedroom. So he tends to take his naps in my bedroom all the time now.
I would
So
love to have
it's
a
really-
bed, a pyramid over my bed,
Well, this is
I
exactly what I
know.
big
was
enough
about
to go from the floor all the way up to the ceiling.
Sleep
what I had
inside of it.
heard-
Yes.
You know,
what I
that
had
was my
heard-
dream.
I heard that if you
Have
sleep
crystal.
under them, or if you spend a lot of time under them, especially, I guess maybe if you really haven't done a lot of the inner work. I don't know what the circumstances are, but I remember it being said that if you sleep under it and you spend so much time under it, you will speed up karma. Like things will start happening in your life so quickly because of the energy that's going through you that like it's almost better to not sleep under it. But I think that may be for some people. Like if you haven't been putting the time in with the work that a lot of us here have.
If I recall on the live stream, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I think you're correct, because I just heard that the other day when they said somebody had asked if it's better to do 2 short sessions or to do 1 long meditation. And they said the 2 shorter sessions was the better choice. And they gave a lot of other reasons for that too, but just energetically, they said that's better. There's more, you'll see more results in like healing and different benefit from, but they did recommend the shorter. Am I still here?
There you are, a shorter.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know I cut out. I haven't moved. They said to do the shorter time frame meditations, but more frequently, like 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, versus like a long 2-hour meditation. In this particular Stargate, it's the Russian pyramid. I don't know about the Giza or some of the other ones.
Well,
but
speaking of
that was the
pyramids, you know,
recommendation.
I don't know what everyone else's pyramid is like, that, but the one that I have with my dog under, that one's specifically built to the Great Pyramid of Giza proportions. So the angle is, I think, 51-degree angle or something like that. So it's identical to the exact angles of the pyramid in Giza.
And of course, those measurements reflect multiple measurements of the Earth. You know, like
Yeah.
I mean, there are many, many, many of them. I can't even recite them.
Yeah,
But
the base of one line is like the equivalence of going around the world somehow, squared or whatever. You know, I know exactly what you're talking about. Some crazy mathematical equations, but
yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
And apparently the Giza pyramid isn't even square. It's longer, it's slightly longer than it is wide. But anyway, and the ratios of some of the other ones, like the Russian pyramid, are like, you know, to the phi ratio, stuff like that. So I don't know that it would necessarily affect the function. I think that the one in Egypt was built to those proportions because it pointed to such numbers as the cycle of the precession of the equinox. I mean, what is it? God, I'm drawing a blank. The great year, you know, the 26,000 year cycle. So they were trying to leave us clues to that. Whereas if they had built all the pyramids in different ratios, we would not have the same Earth measurements built in to give us the information.
Well, you know,
but I think they all do the same thing.
Just looking at the pyramid and knowing that my dog sensed and felt the energy of this pyramid, there has to be something to this particular angle of the pyramid. So that's,
well,
to me, it's confirmation of that angle, that particular one.
Reflect if the Giza pyramid ratio, I mean, the measurements are reflective of the Earth's measurements, then it should also be reflective, you would think, somehow also of the Schumann resonance. So, you know, with all those measurements being related, it may be why the animals are so drawn to. It makes me wonder if you had a room with pyramids identical except for their angles, if the animals would choose the Giza pyramid more often than any of the other ones because of the entrainment of the Schumann resonance.
That would be a great experiment, you know, because people might have their own affinities, but animals would know instinctively which one has the best energy or the most conducive energy for that particular animal. So it'd be cool to have, like, for me, a Russian pyramid with whatever angles those are, you know, and, you know, this one that I have with the Giza plateau pyramids, different sized, different shaped pyramids, and find out which one the animals are truly attracted to. And, you know, and if there was a way to measure the energy, the piezoelectric energy on each one, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, I bet they've probably done it on that channel. It's just Stargate Pyramids on YouTube, but they do so many experiments. It's really interesting. And I watched them like last year, I think is when I found the channel, and I just kept getting drawn back to it, you know? So I'm like, okay, I think I'm just supposed to order one of these and figure this out. So like I said, I'm just getting started. So I'm really don't have any experiences of my own yet to speak of, other than I can tell the energy, and I have crystals inside of them. So it's only been, I think I put them in there last weekend. So just kind of waiting to see if I notice. And I bought some flowers, some new fresh flowers. We'll see how long they last. Have you put crystals in yours, Greg?
No, I haven't, but I have smaller pyramids that I've actually put over like produce, bananas and fruit and stuff like that. And they say that, you know, it's supposed to prolong the age of the vegetables and fruit. And it seems to, yeah.
Cool.
What I think I might do, though, I might get my pyramid back out. I have a guest bedroom, and there's a bed in there, and my daughter uses it on occasion when she comes down. But I could always put that bed up, you know, on its side, I guess, and maybe put the pyramid in the room there, make it into a little meditation room. I think I should do that. It's inspiring me to get my pyramid back out again.
Okay, am I here?
Yeah.
Okay. I missed all that. I think you cut out on my phone.
So people in the YouTube are asking, someone's asking, do you breed the dogs? No, unfortunately, my dog passed away recently. He was hit by a car. He's no longer with us, my little boy, Sammy. But I do know the holistic breeder, and it is a holistic breeder that he was born from. His parents was one parent was I think the mother was all black and the father was sable, and half the litter was black and half were sable. Those are like really hard colors to find if you like German Shepherds. They're really rare. They usually cost like $3,000 to $5,000 a puppy. I got him for $550. And
Wow.
That's why I called him Sammy, because the 5'5", I can't drive 55. 5 would be a wonderful number anyway, but 5'5", I can't drive 55. Sammy Hagar. So
Aww.
my little boy. So yeah, that was part of my shitty year of 2019. You know, I had one way back when, you know, when, gosh, it might have been when I had skin cancer. That was back in 2007. Another dark night of the soul year. You know, and 2019 was another dark night of the soul year. You know, so but this 2020 is starting out much better. You know, there's a lot of positive things that are going on here. So looking forward to 2020.
Best is yet to come.
Yeah. Oh heck yeah.
Looking forward to that.
So I think we have been on for quite a while, probably several hours. I don't know how long have we been doing this. Probably close to 3 hours, I would say.
Most of my drive home from Houston.
Well, that's awesome. That's great that you could fit us all in your car.
Yes. Thank you. It was a great way to pass the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to just thank everybody for joining me here tonight on this spirit chat. We covered a lot of topics, and we plan on doing this quite often again. Not sure when the next spirit chat will be, but the next topic that we're going to be doing will be tomorrow night. And I highly encourage people to join us. You can find the link on my personal Facebook page, In5D Facebook page, and the In5D, my personal Twitter page also. To join us tomorrow night at, I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern time, on how, what led to your spiritual awakening will be the topic. So I know everyone's got amazing stories to tell. We got some people that got their feet wet in here for the first time on Zoom, and I hope you guys keep coming back. Remember that, on Patreon, we have this same thing once a month, the first Wednesday of every month, but it's a private chat. It's Insiders Club. So if you want to join that, feel free to join us on Patreon too. So I'm going to leave it off at that. I want to once again thank everybody for joining me here on Zoom and on YouTube. And
Have
be
a
sure
good
to join
night.
us tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Nice to meet
Greg.
you all.
Thanks, everyone.
my pleasure. And be sure to join us tomorrow
Thank
night
you.
on YouTube and here on Zoom. And so until the next time, I'm sending you all infinite love and light. And this is Greg from In5D. Namaste.